everyday Americans. Donald Trump and Republicans have failed the country when it comes to the economy. Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living on day one of Donald Trump's presidency. But costs haven't gone down in the United States of America. Costs have gone up under failed Republican policies. Housing costs are out of control. Grocery costs are out of control. Healthcare costs are out of control. Utility bills are out of control. And child care costs are out of control. The affordability crisis in the United States of America is very real. Republicans have failed to lower the high cost of living. And as a result of the Trump tariffs, costs are going up by thousands of dollars per year on everyday Americans. Democrats remain committed to driving down the high cost of living, to fixing our broken healthcare system, and to ensuring that we have immigration enforcement policies in this country that are fair, just, and humane. Republicans have failed America on affordability, on health care, on immigration enforcement, and they have failed to make life better for the American people. Questions?
Thank you. It's looking increasingly likely there might need to be some sort of short-term stopgap for DHS with the deadline approaching at the end of the week and no agreement in place yet. I'm just curious if there's any chance you would vote for or allow your members to vote for a short-term CR to do a clean extension of DHS just to give more time for negotiations.
ICE is out of control right now. The American people know it, and ICE clearly needs to be reined in. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not brutalize and kill American citizens. Our position has been clear. Dramatic changes are needed at the Department of Homeland Security before a DHS funding bill moves forward. Period. Full stop.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. As these negotiations are happening, the Homeland Security Committee will hold an oversight hearing tomorrow where they'll hear from the heads of ICE, CBP, and USCIS. What do you think the heads of these agencies need to say to the American people to, communicate that they understand the gravity of your demands, the gravity of the moment? You all say that ICE needs to be reined in. You have very, very obvious concerns about what's happening in terms of the president's immigration policies. What do you need to hear from some of his administration officials tomorrow at this hearing to let you know that your message is getting through, at least for the administration?
Donald Trump and the administration promised that their immigration enforcement policies were going to target violent felons. They lied to the American people. The Trump administration is not targeting violent felons. They're targeting American citizens, communities throughout this country, and law-abiding immigrant families. The American people know that ICE is completely and totally out of control. They've gone too far and need to be reined in. At the hearing this week, Trump administration officials should apologize to the American people for using their taxpayer dollars to unleash wicked brutality on the American people, and in some cases, kill them in cold blood, like Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. The administration also needs to commit to the dramatic changes that Democrats have forcefully put on the table, including but not limited to mandatory body cameras, judicial warrant requirements, no masks, an end to roving patrols that are brutalizing American communities, no racial profiling, no targeting of sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, houses of worship, and polling sites, and independent investigations to ensure that when ICE officials break the law, state and local officials can investigate them and prosecute anyone who has committed a crime in the United States of America. House and Senate Democrats have clearly transmitted to the American people and clearly transmitted to the White House and our colleagues in the House and the Senate the types of dramatic changes that need to occur at the Department of Homeland Security before a funding bill moves forward this Friday, and we're still waiting to hear back from the White House, which shows to me that these extremists aren't serious about getting ICE under control.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. So now that the Epstein files are available at the Department of Justice, unredacted, is there a strategy? Obviously, there are millions of files. Is there any coordination among Democrats for who is looking for what? And are you, or is anyone in leadership going to be taking advantage of that opportunity?
Well, on this matter, where the American people in general and the survivors in particular are seeking full accountability and full transparency, Robert Garcia and the Oversight Democrats, along with Jamie Raskin and the Judiciary Committee Democrats, will continue to take the lead. The lead will also continue to be taken by the Democratic Women's Caucus, led by Teresa Ledger Fernandez, who has worked closely with the Epstein survivors throughout this Congress and will continue to do so. Thanks. Back.
Thanks, Leader Jeffries. The House voted unanimously to strip out that provision the Senate put into the appropriations package that would allow senators to sue the government over Jack Smith's investigation and get money back. There's now a hearing on with the telecom companies tomorrow in the Senate, and Lindsey Graham has said he's trying to get some version of this through the Senate in the future that would allow for a private cause of action by private groups who had their phone records similarly pulled. Is something like that entirely dead in the House of Representatives? Would you consider any sort of legislation like that that might come out?
We'll have to take a look at any bipartisan proposal that relates to allowing everyday Americans to vindicate their rights under the law, if in fact those privacy rights have been violated. But the continuing temper tantrum being thrown by Lindsey Graham perplexes me. I don't get it. Like, there's enough corruption taking place coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now, the most corrupt administration in American history, Donald Trump and his sycophants running the largest pay-to-play scheme ever seen, focused on enriching themselves, their family members, and their friends, as opposed to actually addressing the affordability crisis or driving down the high cost of living. Republicans in the House and the Senate have shown no interest in dealing with the affordability crisis and no interest in fixing our broken healthcare system. I would suggest that John Thune and others actually pass the straightforward extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Focus on that so we can actually restore affordable health care for tens of millions of Americans who are right now facing dramatically increased health care premiums. In some cases, seeing their premiums increase by $1,000 or $2,000 per month. That's unacceptable here in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and Senate Republicans have done nothing about it. After House Democrats partnering with 17 House Republicans sent over a month ago a straightforward extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Rosa DeLauro said she would support a funding bill that essentially funds every portion of DHS except for ICE and CBP. A, is that something you would support? And B, if it is, would that not be basically giving up all the rest of the leverage, given that the big beautiful bill funded those two agencies for 4 years?
We don't look at the moment that we're in as exercising leverage over the other side. We want to fund the government in a manner that actually promotes the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. The ball is in the Republicans' court right now. We sent over a proposal. We've given them legislative language. as it relates to the types of dramatic reforms of DHS that the American people are demanding, and we've heard nothing but crickets from the other side. That says to me that Republicans are preparing to shut down the Coast Guard, shut down FEMA, and shut down TSA because they'd rather see that outcome than actually force ICE and other parts of DHS to conduct themselves like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That's what we're asking for at this point. Police officers don't wear masks. County sheriffs don't wear masks. State troopers don't wear masks. Why are Republicans committed to unleashing masked ICE or CBP agents on the streets of America to visit brutality on American citizens, while at the same time targeting law-abiding immigrant families? It's all so completely and totally unhinged, unacceptable, and un-American. So this is on Republicans right now in terms of what happens on Friday. The clock is ticking. We'll sit down with anyone, anytime, any place. But our demands for dramatic ICE reform are clear. It's a line in the sand that we've drawn on behalf of the American people. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Kind of following up on that, you're saying that you haven't heard from Republicans and you also haven't heard from the White House. How confident are you that if there is a shutdown of DHS, you'll be able to reach a deal during that?
We've made clear to Republicans repeatedly throughout this Congress that we're not down with the my way or the highway approach. For some reason, these Republicans tried to convince all of us, the American people, that we were in the midst of some irreversible MAGA revolution, which none of us on the Democratic side of the House ever believed. Because the bottom line is, Republicans wouldn't even be in the majority in the House right now had they not stolen 3 seats from the people of North Carolina in mid-decade gerrymandering that occurred in 2024. They wouldn't even be in the majority right now. And yet they try to convince everybody that somehow the country was in the midst of a MAGA takeover, which nobody with any sense believes at this point, because Republicans continue to be destroyed electorally. Literally, Democrats since January of 2025 haven't lost a single competitive election. Every single state house seat, more than 25, that have been flipped in this country have been flipped by Democrats. Zip zero on the other side. In fact, most recently, everybody was stunned to see what happened in Texas, a district that Donald Trump had initially won in a state Senate seat by 17 points. And a Democrat wins by 14. That was a 31-point overperformance. Shocking to the country. But then I was amazed because I assumed that that was the high watermark. A 31-point overperformance in a state Senate district in Texas that's larger than congressional districts until this weekend in Louisiana, which just happens to be the home state of the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader. Presumably, ground zero of the MAGA movement. And yet, in a Louisiana state house seat, just on Saturday, that Donald Trump apparently won by 13 points in November of 2024. The Democratic candidate, wait for it, just won by 24 points in Louisiana, the heart of Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise territory. That was a 37-point overperformance, if my math is correct. This is stunning. It's over for these extremists. And so the notion that in the face of Republicans being rejected all across America and Democratic candidates up and down the ballot throughout the country being embraced, the notion that this week Republicans were going to proceed with a my way or the highway approach and act like they have the high ground on any issue, they do not. It's over for these people. Apparently, they're the only ones who haven't come to that conclusion.
I think that's a good segue to talk about the Save America Act. First of all, why are they doing this again? They already passed a version of it. What do you think they're doing with this, and how do you see it relating to Trump's talk about nationalizing elections?
Well, Donald Trump clearly wants to nationalize the election because he knows if there's a free and fair election, it's over. Right? The House is gone. Senate majority likely gone as well for these Republican extremists. Because the American people see, as Democrats, we're the only ones actually fighting hard on the issues that matter, to drive down the high cost of living, to fix our broken healthcare system, and to clean up corruption and the mess that Donald Trump and Republican policies have created. Republicans have adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy. That's what the so-called SAVE Act is all about. And this version is worse than the last version. Because this version, as I understand it, would actually give DHS the power to get voting records from states across the country. Why would these extremists think that's a good idea that we as Democrats are going to accept at this moment in time? We want DHS and ICE, who have been brutally, viciously, and violently targeting everyday Americans, to have more data about the American people? It's outrageous. Something is really wrong with these folks. I think they're trying to lose elections at this point. They're a disaster. They failed. And so the only path forward, we've given a list of 10 demands. Those demands are completely consistent with the values of the American people, and we're waiting for a direct response from Donald Trump, the White House, and Republicans on Capitol Hill. And then we can have a debate, which we are ready to enthusiastically embrace on behalf of the American people. The so-called SAVE Act, a version that's worse than the prior version, is going down. It's not going to pass. If it squeaks by the House, it's dead on arrival in the Senate. They're wasting time. Again, why are Republicans trying to do everything but make life better for the American people? They're focused on nationalizing the election. In the 250th anniversary of this great country, are they unaware of the principle of federalism in America? Traditional Republicans used to embrace federalism. But now that they're part of a cult, they do whatever the cult leader tells them to do.
What was your reaction to the results in the New Jersey special primary? I know it's not yet been called, but it seems like progressive candidate Ana Lilia Mejia is going to win that one.
It's not yet been called yet, so we're closely monitoring the election results. And then whoever emerges will be prepared to stand by them in the April general election to ensure that a Democrat fills the seat left vacant by Governor Mikey Sherrill.
Obviously, Democrats are frustrated with how the administration is responding on the Epstein front, but there's also, as you've already hinted at, the DHS fund fight, the question about affordability and so forth. how do you see Epstein as fitting into a message when it comes to the fall, and how much should we expect it to be part of the message in the fall?
Well, we've talked about three core issues. First, of course, leaning in on the economy. Democrats being committed to drive down the high cost of living. America is too expensive right now. Donald Trump has made the affordability crisis worse here in the country, and then continues to say it's a hoax, or that we're not talking about it anymore. The problem is Donald Trump spends all of his time watching state TV as opposed to actually interacting with everyday Americans who know that the affordability crisis is very real. So we're focused on the economy. We're going to continue to focus on fixing our broken healthcare system in an environment where Republicans enacted their one big ugly bill and the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, literally ripping food as well from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans, taking health care away from more than 14 million people, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics closing across America because of Republican policies in that one big ugly bill. And now they continue to refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, meaning that tens of millions of Americans are increasingly unable to go see a doctor when they need one. And all of this, of course, was done in that one big ugly bill to enact dramatic tax breaks, big tax breaks for their billionaire donors, while at the same time giving ICE a $75 billion slush fund so they can unleash brutality on the American people. So we're going to continue to point out the fact that Republicans have created a health care crisis, and in part they created that health care crisis so that they could give ICE a slush fund, not to go after violent felons, but to target American citizens, in some cases kill them, and also to violently go after law-abiding immigrant families. All unacceptable. They created a health care crisis. Democrats are committed to fixing our broken health care system. Third, we need to clean up corruption here in the United States of America. In the House, in the Senate, at the Supreme Court, and certainly with the Trump administration. And in that context, the American people are correctly demanding transparency and accountability as it relates to the Epstein files. What is the administration hiding? Who are they trying to protect? These are questions that, of course, led by Robert Garcia, Jamie Raskin, and Teresa Leger Fernandez, House Democrats are going to continue to press forward on, consistent with what the American people are demanding. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. You said that the SAVE Act is not going to pass the House, but a vast majority of Americans, including 70% of Democrats, do support having voter ID requirements. So are Democrats on the wrong side of an issue with so much support? What's the path forward for Democrats here?
Republicans are clearly on the wrong side of every single issue, which is why they are getting crushed electorally. This is a desperate effort by Republicans to distract. The so-called SAVE Act is not about voter identification. It is about voter suppression. And they have zero credibility on this issue, Republicans, in the same way that they have zero credibility on every other issue, which is why they continue to be routed electorally, including in districts and states that Donald Trump won comfortably in November of 2024.
The last shutdown, the 43-day shutdown, was over the ACA extensions, and the shutdown ended without getting those extensions. What's your belief as to how this next shutdown could end? Do you have guarantees for the American people that these demands will happen? The last ones didn't happen.
Yes, and the last ones did actually happen in the House of Representatives. So no one was talking about health care generally and the Affordable Care Act specifically in September of 2025 until House Democrats, joined by Senate Democrats, started to talk about it in the context of the looming crisis because of the pending expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Everybody understands that Democrats were successful in articulating a narrative during the Trump Republican 43-day government shutdown that in part resulted in 17 House Republicans joining every single House Democrat and passing a straightforward extension on our terms, 3 years of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats are governing in the minority as if we were in the majority. We've had more successful discharge petitions led by Democrats in this Congress over the last few months than have occurred in the last few decades combined. So the one thing we can guarantee to the American people is that we're in this fight on their behalf until we win this fight and begin the process of ending the national nightmare that Donald Trump and Republican policies are inflicting on the American people. Thank you. Donald Trump continues to say the affordability crisis in America is very real. It is a clear and present danger middle-class Americans and everyday Americans. Of working-class Americans, Donald Trump and Republicans have failed the country when it comes to the economy. Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living on day one of Donald Trump's presidency. But costs haven't gone down in the United States of America. Costs have gone up under failed Republican policies. Housing costs are out of control. Grocery costs are out of control. Healthcare costs are out of control. Utility bills are out of control. And child care costs are out of control. The affordability crisis in the United States of America is very real. Republicans have failed to lower the high cost of living. And as a result of the Trump tariffs, costs are going up by thousands of dollars per year on everyday Americans. Democrats remain committed to driving down the high cost of living, to fixing our broken health care system, and to ensuring that we have immigration enforcement policies in this country that are fair, just, and humane. Republicans have failed America on affordability, on health care, on immigration enforcement, and they have failed to make life better for the American people. They have failed to make life better for the American people.
Thank you. It's looking increasingly likely there might need to be some sort of short-term stopgap for DHS with the deadline approaching at the end of the week and no agreement in place yet. I'm just curious if there's any chance you would vote for or allow your members to vote for a short-term CR to do a clean extension of DHS just to give more time for negotiations to take place.
ICE is out of control right now. The American people know it. And ICE clearly needs to be reined in. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not brutalize and kill American citizens. Our position has been clear. Dramatic changes are needed at the Department of Homeland Security before a DHS funding bill moves forward. Period. Full stop.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. As these negotiations are happening, the Homeland Security Committee will hold an oversight hearing tomorrow where they'll hear from the heads of ICE, CBP, and USCIS. What do you think the heads of these agencies need to say to the American people to, I guess, communicate that they understand the gravity of your demands, the gravity of the moment? You all say that ICE needs to be reined in. You have very, very obvious concerns about what's happening in terms of the president's immigration policies. What do you need to hear from some of his administration officials tomorrow at this hearing to let you know that your message is getting through, at least to the administration?
Donald Trump and the administration promised that their immigration enforcement policies were going to target violent felons. They lied to the American people. The Trump administration is not targeting violent felons. They're targeting American citizens, communities throughout this country, and law-abiding immigrant families. The American people know that ICE is completely and totally out of control. They've gone too far and need to be reined in. At the hearing this week, Trump administration officials should apologize to the American people for using their taxpayer dollars to unleash wicked brutality on the American people, and in some cases, kill them in cold blood, like Renee Nicole Good and Alex Creddy. The administration also needs to commit to the dramatic changes that Democrats have forcefully put on the table, including but not limited to mandatory body cameras, judicial warrant requirements, no masks, an end to roving patrols that are brutalizing American communities, no racial profiling, no targeting of sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, houses of worship, and polling sites, and independent investigations to ensure that when ICE officials break the law, state and local officials can investigate them and prosecute anyone who has committed a crime in the United States of America. House and Senate Democrats have clearly transmitted to the American people and clearly transmitted to the White House and our colleagues in the House and the Senate the types of dramatic changes that need to occur at the Department of Homeland Security before a funding bill moves forward this Friday, and we're still waiting to hear back from the White House. Which shows to me that these extremists aren't serious about getting ICE under control.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. So now that the Epstein files are available at the Department of Justice, unredacted, is there a strategy? Obviously, there are millions of files. Is there any coordination among Democrats for who is looking for what? And are you, or is anyone in leadership going to be taking advantage of that opportunity?
Well, on this matter, where the American people in general and the survivors in particular are seeking full accountability and full transparency, Robert Garcia and the Oversight Democrats, along with Jamie Raskin and the Judiciary Committee Democrats, will continue to take the lead. The lead will also continue to be taken by the Democratic Women's Caucus, led by Teresa Ledger Fernandez, who has worked closely with the Epstein survivors throughout this Congress and will continue to do so. Back.
Thanks, Leader Jeffries. The House voted unanimously to strip out that provision the Senate put into the appropriations package that would allow senators to sue the government over Jack Smith's investigation and get money back. There's now a hearing on with the telecom companies tomorrow in the Senate, and Lindsey Graham has said he's trying to get some version of this through the Senate in the future that would allow for a private cause of action by private groups who had their phone records similarly pulled. Is something like that entirely dead in the House of Representatives? Would you consider any sort of legislation like that might come out?
We'll have to take a look at any bipartisan proposal that relates to allowing everyday Americans to vindicate their rights under the law, if in fact those privacy rights have been violated. But the continuing temper tantrum being thrown by Lindsey Graham perplexes me. I don't get it. Like, there's enough corruption taking place coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now, the most corrupt administration in American history, Donald Trump and his sycophants running the largest pay-to-play scheme ever seen, focused on enriching themselves, their family members, focused on
and their friends, as
enriching
opposed to
themselves
actually
and
addressing the
family members
affordability
and their
crisis
friends, as
or
opposed
driving
to
down the high cost of
addressing
living.
the affordability crisis.
Republicans
or driving
in the
down
House
high
and the
cost
Senate
of
have
living.
shown no interest
Republicans
in
the
dealing
House
with the
and the Senate
affordability
have
crisis
shown
and no interest in fixing our broken healthcare system. I would
dealing
suggest
with
that
the
John Thune and
crisis
others
and no interest in fixing our
actually
broken healthcare
pass the
system.
straightforward
I would suggest that
extension of the
John Thune and
Affordable
others
Care Act tax credits.
actually
Focus on that.
pass the straightforward extension of the
So we can
Affordable Care
actually
Act tax credit. Focus
Restore
on
affordable health care for
So we can
tens of
actually
millions of Americans who are right now
Restore
facing
affordable
dramatically
healthcare for tens of
increased
millions of
health
Americans
care
who are
premiums.
right now
In some cases,
dramatically
seeing their premiums increase by $1,000 or $2,000 per
In
month.
some cases,
That's unacceptable
seeing their premiums
here in the
increase by
wealthiest country in the
$1,000 or
history of the world.
$2,000 per
And
month.
Senate
That's
Republicans have done nothing about it.
Here in the wealthiest country in the history
After
of the
House
world.
Democrats
Senate
partnering with
Republicans have done
17
nothing about it.
House Republicans sent over
After House Democrats partnering with
a month
17
ago
House Republicans
a straightforward
sent over
extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
a month ago.
Rosa DeLauro said she would support a funding bill that essentially funds every portion of DHS except for ICE and CBP. A, is that something you would support? And B, if it is, would that not be basically giving up all the rest of the leverage, given that the big beautiful bill funded those two agencies for 4 years?
We don't look at the moment that we're in as exercising leverage
We don't look
over
at
the other
moment
side.
that we're in
We want to fund the
exercising
government
leverage
in a manner
over the
that
other
actually
side.
promotes the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people.
That actually
The ball
promotes
is in the
health,
Republicans'
safety,
court
and
right now. We
economic
sent
well-being
over
of
a
the American
proposal. We've given them
people.
legislative
Ball's in the
language
Republicans' court
as it
right now.
relates to
We
the
sent
types
over
of
a
dramatic
proposal. We've
reforms
given them
of
legislative
DHS that the
language
American
as it
people are
relates to the types of
demanding,
dramatic
and we've heard
reforms
nothing but
of
crickets.
DHS that the American people
from the
are
other side.
demanding, and we've heard
That
nothing
says
but
to me
crickets.
That Republicans
From the
are
other side.
preparing to shut
That says to
down
me
the Coast Guard,
that
shut down
Republicans are
FEMA,
preparing
and
to
shut down TSA
the Coast Guard
because they'd
shut
rather
down
see
FEMA,
that outcome
and shut down TSA
than actually
because they'd rather
force
see that outcome
ICE and other
and
parts
actually
of DHS to
force
conduct themselves
ICE
like every other law
and other
enforcement
parts of
agency in the
DHS
country.
to conduct
That's what we're
themselves
asking
like
for at
every
this
other
point.
law enforcement agency in the country.
Police officers
That's
don't
what we're
wear
asking
masks.
for at this point.
County sheriffs don't
Police
wear
officers
masks.
Don't wear masks.
State troopers don't wear masks.
County sheriffs don't wear masks.
Why are Republicans committed
State troopers don't wear masks.
to unleashing mass
Why are
ICE
Republicans committed
or CBP
to
agents
unleashing
on the streets
mass
of America
ICE
to visit
or CBP
brutality
agents
on
on the
American
streets of
citizens,
America
while at the same
to
time
visit
targeting
brutality on
law-abiding
American citizens?
immigrant
While at the
families?
same time
It's also
targeting
completely and totally
law-abiding
unhinged, unacceptable,
immigrant families. It's
and
also
un-American.
completely and totally
So,
unhinged, unacceptable,
This is on Republicans
and
right now
un-American. So
in terms of what happens.
this is on
Friday.
Republicans right now.
The clock is
In terms
ticking.
of what happens on Friday.
We'll sit down with anyone,
The clock
anytime, any
is
place.
ticking.
But our demands
We'll sit
for
down with anyone,
dramatic
anytime, any place.
ICE
But
reform
our demands
are clear.
for
It's a line in the sand that
ICE
we've drawn
reform
on behalf of the
are
American
clear.
people.
It's a line in the sand
Thank
that
you,
we've drawn
Mr. Leader. Kind of
on
following
behalf
up
of the
on
American
that, you're saying that you haven't heard from Republicans and you also haven't heard from the White House. How confident are you that if there is a shutdown of DHS, you'll be able to reach a deal during that?
We've made clear to Republicans repeatedly throughout this Congress that we're not down with the my way or the highway approach. For some reason, these Republicans tried to convince all of us, the American people,
For some reason, these Republicans
that we were in the midst of
all
some
of us, the American
irreversible MAGA revolution,
that we were in the midst of some
which none of us on the Democratic side of the House ever believed. Because
None of
the
us
bottom
on the
line is,
Democratic side of the House
Republicans
ever
wouldn't even be in the majority in the House right now
Because
had they
the
not
bottom line
stolen
is
3 seats from the
Republicans
people of
wouldn't
North
even be in
Carolina.
the majority in the House right
In
now
mid-decade
had they not stolen 3 seats from the people of North
gerrymandering
Carolina.
that occurred
Mid-decade
in 2024. They wouldn't even be in the
Gerrymandering.
majority right now.
that occurred.
And yet they try to convince everybody
They wouldn't even be in the majority
that
right
somehow
now. And yet they try
the
to
country
convince
was in the midst of a MAGA takeover,
the country was in the midst
which nobody with any sense
of a
believes
MAGA takeover,
at this point,
which nobody
because
with any
Republicans
sense believes
continue to be
at
destroyed
this point,
electorally
because Republicans
Literally,
continue to be
Democrats
destroyed.
since January of 2025 haven't lost a single
Literally,
competitive
Democrats
election.
since January of 2025.
Every
haven't lost
single
a single
State
competitive
House
election.
seat, more than 25,
Every
that have been
single
flipped
state
in this
House
country
seat,
have been
more
flipped
than
by
25
Democrats.
that have been flipped
Zip
in this
zero
country have been flipped
on the
by
other side.
Democrats. Zip
In fact,
zero
most recently,
on the other side.
everybody was stunned
In fact, most recently,
to see what happened in Texas.
everybody was stunned
The district
to see what
that
happened.
Donald
in
Trump had initially
Texas.
won
District
in a state
Donald
Senate
Trump
seat by
initially won
17
in a
points,
state Senate,
and a Democrat wins by
17 points.
14. That was a 31-point
Democrat wins
overperformance. Shocking
14. That was a 31-point overperformance.
to the country.
Shocking
But then I was amazed because I
to the country.
assumed that that was the high watermark.
But then I was amazed because I
A 31-point
assumed that was the high
overperformance
watermark.
in a state Senate district in Texas that's
A
larger than
31-point
congressional district
overperformance in
until
state
this
Senate
weekend
district in Texas that's larger than
in
congressional
Louisiana, which just happens to be the home state of the Speaker of the
which
House
just happens to be
and
the home state
the
of
Majority
Speaker
Leader.
of the House
Presumably,
and
ground zero
the Majority Leader.
of the MAGA
Presumably,
movement.
ground zero,
And yet, in a Louisiana State House seat,
and yet
just on Saturday,
in a Louisiana state
that Donald
House,
Trump
just on
apparently
Saturday,
won by 13 points
Donald Trump
in November of 2024.
by 13 points
The Democratic candidate,
in November of 2020.
wait for it, just won
The Democratic
by
candidate,
24
wait for it,
points
just won
in Louisiana,
24 points.
the heart of Mike Johnson and
Louisiana.
Steve Scalise territory.
The heart of Mike Johnson
That was
and
a
Steve Scalise territory.
37-point
That was a
overperformance, if my math is correct.
7-point
This is stunning.
If my math is
It's
correct.
over for these extremists.
This is
And
stunning.
so the notion that in the
Over
face
for these
of
extremists.
Republicans being
And so the
rejected
notion that in the
all
face
across America
of
and
Republicans
Democratic
being
candidates
rejected
up and down the ballot
all across
throughout the country
America,
being
and
embraced,
Democratic
the
candidates
notion that
up
this
and
week
down the ballot throughout the
Republicans
country
were going to
being
proceed
embraced,
with a my
the
way
notion
or the
that this
highway
week
approach and act like they have the
proceed
high
with a
ground
my way
on
or the
any
highway approach,
issue, they do
and act
not.
like they have the high ground.
It's
on
over for
any
these people.
Issue, they do not.
Apparently, they're the only
It's
ones
over for these people.
who haven't come to that conclusion.
I think that's a good
Apparently, they're the
segue to
only
talk
ones
about the Save America
who haven't
Act.
come to that
First of all, what do you, why are they doing this again? They already passed a version of it. What do you think they're doing with this? And how do you see it relating to Trump's talk about nationalizing elections?
Well, Donald Trump clearly wants to nationalize the election because he knows if there's a free and fair election, it's over.
Trump clearly wants to nationalize
Right, the House is
election
gone.
because he knows if there's a free and fair election, it's
Senate
over.
majority likely
Right, the
gone
House
as
is
well
gone.
for these Republican
Senate
extremists.
majority.
Because the
likely
American
gone
people
as
see,
well.
as Democrats, we're the only ones actually fighting
American
hard
people see, as
on the
Democrats,
issues that matter,
we're the
to
only
drive
ones
down the high
actually
cost of living,
fighting
to fix our
hard
broken healthcare system,
on
and
the
to
issues
clean
that
up
matter,
corruption
to
and
drive
the
down the
mess
high cost of living,
that
to
Donald
fix our
Trump and
broken healthcare
Republican
system,
policies
to clean
have
up
created.
corruption and the mess
Republicans have
that Donald
adopted
Trump and Republican
voter
policies
suppression
have
as an
created.
electoral strategy.
Republicans have adopted
That's what the so-called
voter
SAVE Act is all
suppression
about.
as an electoral
And this
strategy.
version is worse than the
That's what
last version.
so-called SAVE Act is all about.
Because this
And this
version,
version is worse
as I
than the last
understand
version.
it, would actually
Because this
give
version, as I understand it,
DHS the
actually
power
give
to get voting records
DHS the
from
power
states
to
across
get
the country.
voting records.
Why would these extremists
From states
think that's a good
across the
idea
country. Why
that
would
we
these
as Democrats are
extremists
going to
think
accept at
that's
this
a good
moment in
idea
time?
that we as Democrats
We
are
want
going to
DHS
accept
and
at this
ICE
moment in time?
who have been brutally,
We want
viciously,
DHS
and violently targeting everyday Americans
brutally,
to have more
viciously,
data?
and violently
About the
targeting
American
everyday
people?
Americans to have more
It's
data.
outrageous. Something is really
About
wrong
the
with these
American
folks. I think they're trying to lose
It's
elections.
outrageous. Something is really
At this
wrong with
point.
these folks. I think they're trying
They're a
to lose
disaster. They
elections
failed.
at this point.
And so
They're a disaster. They failed.
the only path forward, we've given a list of 10 demands Those demands are completely consistent with the values of the American people. And we're waiting for a direct response from Donald Trump, the White House, and Republicans on Capitol Hill. And then we can have a debate,
From Donald Trump, the White
which
House,
we
and Republicans on Capitol Hill.
are ready to
And then we can have a debate.
enthusiastically embrace
Which we
on behalf of the American
ready
people.
to
The so-called SAVE Act,
enthusiastically embrace.
a version that's worse than the prior
behalf of the
version,
American
is going down. It's
So-called
not
SAVE
going
Act,
to pass.
A version that's worse than the prior
If it squeaks
version
by the
is
House,
going down.
it's
not
dead on
going to
arrival in the
pass.
Senate. They're wasting time.
If it squeaks by the House.
Again, why
it's
are
dead on
Republicans trying to
arrival
do everything
and
but make
wasting
life better
time.
for the American people?
Again, why are
They're
Republicans
focused
trying to
on
do everything but make life better?
nationalizing the election
They're
in the
focused on
250th anniversary of this great
nationalizing the
country.
election.
Are they unaware of the
250th
principle of
anniversary of this great
federalism
country.
in
Are they
America?
unaware
Traditional
of the
Republicans
principle
used to
of
embrace
federalism?
federalism. But now that they're
America?
part of a cult,
Traditional Republicans used to embrace federalism.
they do whatever the cult leader tells
But
them
now
to do.
that they're part of a cult,
What was your reaction to the results in the New Jersey special primary? I know it's not yet been called, but it seems like progressive candidate Analia Mejia is going to win that one.
It's not yet been called yet, so we're closely monitoring the election
not
results.
yet been called.
And then whoever
Closely
emerges
monitoring.
will be prepared to stand by them
And then
in
whoever
the April
emerges will be prepared to
general
stand by
election
them
to ensure
in the
that a
April
Democrat fills
general election
the seat
to
left
ensure
vacant
that a
by
Democrat
Governor Michael Sherrill.
fills the seat left
Obviously,
vacant
Democrats
by
are
Governor Michael
frustrated with how the administration is responding on the Epstein front, but there's also, as you've already hinted at, the DHS fight, the question about affordability and so forth. How do you see Epstein as fitting into a message when it comes to the fall, and how much should we expect it to be part of the message in the fall?
Well, we've talked about three core issues. First, of course, leaning in on the economy. Democrats being committed to drive down the high cost of living. America is too expensive right now. Donald Trump has made the affordability crisis worse
expensive right
here in the
now.
country,
Donald Trump has made
and then
the
continues
affordability
to say it's a
crisis
hoax, or that we're not talking about it
And then
anymore.
continues
The
to
problem
say
is
it's a
Donald
hoax.
Trump spends all this time
Or that we're not
watching
talking
state
about it
TV
anymore. The problem is Donald Trump spends all
as
his
opposed to
time
actually
watching
interacting
state
with
TV,
everyday Americans
as opposed
who
to
know
actually interacting
that the
with
affordability
everyday
crisis is very
Americans.
real. So we're focused on the economy.
No.
We're going to continue to focus
The affordability
on
crisis
fixing
is
our
very
broken
real.
healthcare
So we're
system
focused on the
in an
economy.
environment
We're continue to focus
where Republicans
on fixing our
enacted their
broken
one big
healthcare
ugly bill,
in an
and the
environment
largest cut to Medicaid
where
in American
Republicans
history,
enacted their one
literally
big
ripping
ugly bill,
food
and the largest cut
as
to
well
Medicaid
from the
in
mouths of hungry
American
children, seniors and
Literally
veterans,
ripping food
taking health care away
as
from
well
more than
from the mouths
14
of
million
hungry
people,
children,
hospitals,
seniors and
nursing homes, and
taking
community-based
healthcare
health
away
clinics
from more than
closing
14 million
across
people,
America
hospitals,
because of
nursing
Republican
homes,
policies
community-based health clinics
in that
closing
one big ugly
across
bill.
America because of Republican
And now they
policies.
continue to refuse to extend the
And that one
Affordable
big
Care Act
ugly
tax
bill.
credits, meaning that
Now
tens
they
of millions of
continue to
Americans
extend the Affordable Care Act
are
tax
increasingly unable to go see a
credits, meaning that
doctor
tens of millions of Americans
when they need one.
are
And all of this, of
increasingly
course, was
unable to go see
done
a doctor
in that one big ugly bill
when they need
to
one.
enact
And all of
dramatic
this, of course, was done in that
tax
one
breaks,
ugly
big
bill
tax breaks
to enact dramatic
for their billionaire donors, while at the same
tax
time
breaks,
giving
big
ICE
tax
a
breaks
$75 billion
for
slush
their
fund
billionaire donors, while at the same time
so they can
giving
unleash
ICE a
brutality on the
$75
American
billion
people.
slush fund.
So we're going to continue to point
So
out
they can unleash brutality on the American
the
people.
fact that Republicans have created a health care crisis, and in part they created that health care crisis
Republicans have created a health care
so that
crisis.
they could give ICE
And in
a
part,
slush
they
fund,
created that health care crisis,
not
so that they
to
could
go
give
after
ICE a slush fund,
violent felons, but to target American citizens,
to go after
in some cases
violent
killed
felons,
them,
but to target American citizens,
and also
in some cases killed them,
to violently go after law-abiding immigrant families. All unacceptable.
to violently
They created a
go after
healthcare
law-abiding
crisis.
immigrant families. All unacceptable.
Democrats are committed to fixing our broken healthcare system. Third,
Democrats are
we need to clean up corruption here in the United States of America. In the House,
We need
in
to
the
clean up
Senate,
corruption here in
at the
United
Supreme
States
Court,
of America. In
and
the
certainly
House,
with the
in
Trump
the Senate,
administration. And
at
in
the
that
Supreme Court,
context,
and certainly
the American people are correctly demanding
in context,
transparency and accountability as it relates to the Epstein files. What is the
Transparency
administration
and accountability
hiding? Who
as it
are
relates
they
to the
trying
Epstein
to
files.
protect?
What
These
is
are
the
questions
administration
that, of
hiding?
course, led by
Who are
Robert
they trying
Garcia,
to protect? These are
Jamie
questions
Raskin, and Teresa
led by
Leger Fernandez,
Robert
House Democrats are going to continue to press forward on, consistent with what the American people are demanding.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. You said that the SAVE Act is not going to pass the House, but a vast majority of Americans, including 70% of Democrats, do support having voter ID requirements. So are Democrats on the wrong side of an issue with so much support? What's the path forward for Democrats here?
Republicans are clearly on the wrong side of every single issue, which is why they are getting crushed electorally. This is a desperate effort by Republicans to distract. The so-called SAVE Act is not about voter identification, it is about voter suppression. And they have zero credibility on this issue, Republicans, in the same way that they have zero credibility on every other issue, which is why they continue to be routed electorally, including in districts and states that Donald Trump won comfortably in November of 2024.
The last shutdown, the 43-day shutdown, was over the ACA extensions, and the shutdown ended without getting those extensions. What's your belief as to how this next shutdown could end? Do you have guarantees for the American people that these demands will happen? The last ones didn't happen.
Yes, and the last ones did actually happen in the House of Representatives. So, no one was talking about health care generally and the Affordable Care Act specifically in September of 2025 until House Democrats, joined by Senate Democrats, started to talk about it in the context of the looming crisis because of the pending expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credit. Everybody understands that Democrats were successful in articulating a narrative during the Trump Republican 43-day government shutdown that in part resulted in 17 House Republicans joining every single House Democrat in passing a straightforward extension on our terms, 3 years of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats are governing in the minority as if we were in the majority. We've had more successful discharge petitions led by Democrats in this Congress over the last few months than have occurred in the last few decades combined. So, the one thing we can guarantee to the American people is that we're in this fight on their behalf until we win this fight and begin the process of ending the national nightmare that Donald Trump and Republican policies are inflicting on the American people. Thank you.
Economic well-being of working-class Americans, middle-class Americans, and everyday Americans. Donald Trump and Republicans have failed the country when it comes to the economy. Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living on day one,
who we congratulate on this significant accomplishment.
But costs haven't gone down in the United States of
narrow
America.
Republican majority will get even narrower.
Under failed
And the question for Republicans will continue to be, are you going to double and triple down on your extremism, which is getting you nowhere
out of control. Healthcare
with the American people,
are out of control. Utility
or
bills
try to find a bipartisan path
control.
forward
And
to actually
childcare
address
costs
the issues that matter
are out of control.
when it
The
comes to making
affordability
life
crisis
better
in the United
for
States
everyday
of America
Americans.
is very real.
House Democrats are going to continue to
Republicans
fight
have
hard
failed to lower the high cost
to
of
lower
living.
the high cost of living, to fix
And as a
our
result
broken
of the
health
Trump
care system,
tariffs,
and to clean up corruption
Costs are going up
everywhere
by thousands
that it
of
is
dollars
found
per year
in this town.
on everyday Americans.
Republican policies
Democrats
on the
remain
economy have
committed
been a failure.
to driving down the high cost
Republican
of living,
policies on
fixing
health
our
care
broken health care system,
have been a failure.
and to ensuring that we have
And Republican
immigration
policies on
enforcement
immigration
policies in this country
enforcement
that
have
are
been
fair,
a complete
just,
and total failure.
and humane.
Taxpayer
Republicans
dollars should
have
not
failed
be spent
America. to brutalize and
affordability,
kill American citizens.
on health care,
Taxpayer dollars
on
should be
immigration
spent to
enforcement.
make life more
and they
affordable
have failed to make life
for everyday
better
Americans.
for the American
Something that Republicans have refused to do from the very beginning of Donald Trump being sworn into office last January. Donald Trump and Republicans promised that they were going to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America on day one. That's what they promised. They lied to the American
ICE is
people.
out of control right now,
Costs haven't
The
gone
American
down,
people know
costs
it.
have gone up.
and ICE
Across the
clearly
board.
needs to
Housing
be
costs out of
reined
control,
in.
grocery costs out of control,
Taxpayer dollars should be used
utility
to make
bills
life
out of
more
control,
affordable for everyday
child care
Americans,
costs out of
not
control, and
brutalize
health care costs out of
and
control.
kill American citizens. Our
Republicans
position has been
have
clear.
refused to extend the Affordable Care Act
Dramatic
tax
changes are
credits in the
needed
Senate,
at the Department of Homeland
and as a result,
Security
tens of millions
before
of Americans
a DHS
are now
funding
experiencing
bill
dramatically
moves
increased health
forward.
insurance premiums.
Period.
In some cases,
Full stop.
the monthly costs have increased by $1,000 or $2,000 per month. That is completely and totally unacceptable. Brought to you by the Republican Party. At the same time, it's Republicans, led by Donald Trump, who in their one big ugly bill enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. They literally have ripped health care away from more than 14 million Americans. And as a result of their policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based
Donald
health
Trump
clinics
and
are
the
closing
administration
all
promised
across America.
That their immigration enforcement
In that one
policies
big
are
ugly
going
bill,
to
they also
target
cut
violent
SNAP
felons.
by
They lied
$186 billion,
to the American
the
people.
largest cut to nutritional
Trump
assistance in
administration
American history.
It's not targeting
The extremists,
violent felons.
they
They're
literally
targeting American citizens,
snatched food out of the mouths of hungry
communities
children,
throughout this
seniors,
country,
and veterans.
law-abiding
And why did they do
immigrant
all of that?
Families. The American people know
For at
that
least
ICE
two
is
reasons.
completely and totally
So they
out of
can
control.
provide
They've gone
massive
too
tax
far
breaks
and need
to their
be reined
billionaire
in.
donors,
At the
and at the
hearing
same
this
time,
week,
create a
Trump administration
$191
officials
billion
should apologize
slush fund
to the American people
that went
for
to the Department of
using
Homeland
their taxpayer
Security,
dollars
including
to
$75 billion
unleash wicked brutality
to ICE,
on the
so that
American people,
masked
and in some
agents
cases, kill
could
them in
unleash
cold blood,
brutality and
like
lawlessness
Renee Colgood
on the
and
American
Alex
people.
Preddy.
Everyday
The administration
Americans have
also
had
needs to
enough
commit to the
with
dramatic
the failed
changes that
policies
Democrats
of
have
Donald Trump
forcefully put on
and
the
Republicans
table,
in the House and the Senate.
including
And
but not
the only
limited to
real question
mandatory
that needs to be answered
body
right
cameras,
now is when will Republicans
judicial
have
warrant
enough
requirements, no masks,
with the extremism
an end to
and the cruelty
roving
and the
patrols
chaos and the corruption
that are
that has
brutalizing
failed
American communities.
the American people.
No racial
Questions?
profiling, no targeting of sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, houses of worship,
Republicans have a
and
responsibility
polling sites,
to move the rule,
and independent
which, by the way,
investigations
includes
to
a wide
ensure
variety of other issues that
when
we
ICE
strongly
officials
disagree
break
with,
the law,
including
state
their
and local
efforts to
officials can investigate
weaponize
them and
the
prosecute
criminal contempt process
anyone
so they can create a
who has
distraction
committed a crime.
from the Department of
the
Justice
United States of
continuing to
America.
hide the Epstein files.
House and,
And
Senate
so,
Democrats have
it's hard to
clearly
imagine a scenario
transmitted to the American
where
people
Democrats are going to provide Republicans who spent all last
clearly
year
transmitted
lecturing us about
to the
the fact
White
that they
House
had some big,
and
massive
our
mandate.
colleagues in the
Really?
House and the Senate. The types of
You had a
dramatic
3-seat
changes that need
majority
to occur
that, as of this evening, will be a
Department of Homeland
2-seat
Security
majority, the
before a
narrowest
funding
one
bill
since
moves forward
1930.
This Friday,
Spent
and we're
all year
still waiting
lying to the
hear back
American
from the
people,
White House.
but pretending, apparently some of them believe it,
shows to me that these
that the results of the
extremists aren't serious
2024 election
about getting
represented
ICE
a
under control.
dramatic shift in how the American people viewed the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. What have the results of the last year said about that conclusion? What have the results of Saturday night, deep in the heart of Texas, said about the Republican
Well, on this
conclusion
matter, where
that
the
somehow
American
we were
people
in the midst
in general
of some
and
dramatic
survivors in
MAGA
particular are seeking
makeover?
full accountability and
It was
full
a lie then.
transparency. Robert
It's a
Garcia
lie
and the
today,
oversight
and it
Democrats,
certainly will be
along with
proven
Jamie
to be a
Raskin
lie
and the Judiciary
in
Committee
November.
Democrats will continue to take the lead.
The lead will also continue to be taken by the Democratic Women's Caucus, led by Teresa Ledger Fernandez, who has worked closely with the Epstein survivors throughout this Congress and will continue to do so. Back. Well, Democrats clearly had the high ground as it relates to standing on the side of the American people and pushing to fix our broken healthcare system and address the Republican healthcare crisis, which is ongoing, and that work is ongoing. And John Thune needs to stop erecting procedural hurdles and take up the House-passed bill that will allow for a straightforward extension for 3 years of the Affordable Care Act tax credits to benefit working families, middle-class families, and everyday Americans. Proposal that in the same way that we had the high ground in standing on the side of the American people, and will continue to do so as it relates to health care, privacy rights have been violated. We clearly have the high ground in standing on the side of the American people with respect to ICE. ICE and the Department of Homeland Security need to dramatically change. Taking place coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now, then a full-year appropriations bill is in deep trouble. History, Donald Trump because the American people are correctly demanding accountability. The American people want to see the mask come off. Enriching themselves. The American people want to see family members, body cameras turned on as opposed to and mandated. The American people affordability crisis want to see judicial warrants down the high cost of living before ICE or DHS officers can storm homes and the Senate have shown no interest, harass people violently on the streets of America or rip people out of their cars. The American people want to see independent investigations so that if ICE or DHS officers break the law, they are held accountable. Focus on that. This concept of absolute immunity is absolute absurdity. Millions of Americans who are right now because the American people know that if you break the law in the United States of America, you should be held accountable. Nobody is above the law. ICE officers should be held to the same standards in the history of the world. And every other member of law enforcement in the country who put their lives on the line for us, law enforcement officers, police officers at home in New York and across the country. A straightforward extension of the Affordable And ICE needs to be reined in. They're out of control. They need to be brought to heel so that there is a level of accountability and professionalism that the American people are demanding. Those are just a few of the issues that are absolute must-haves in advance of the Congress taking up a full-year appropriations bill as it relates to DHS funding. We want to fund the government in a manner that actually promotes the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. Now, we have a leadership meeting later on today where we'll have a discussion about it. We had a caucus meeting yesterday. There was a diversity of perspectives about how to move forward on this particular bill, but it's the 5 bipartisan bills where there's strong Democratic support. And, of course, a variety of perspectives as it relates to the 2-week continuing resolution, the 2-week funding freeze related to DHS. So we'll continue those conversations in the leadership meeting today at 5:15. And then, of course, we'll have a full and robust discussion tomorrow morning at caucus. Like every other law enforcement agency in the country. That's what we're asking for at this I'll get back to you.
Thank you, sir. On the subject
police
of
officers don't wear masks.
The House and Senate vote on this week, what do you make of the fact that
sheriffs don't wear masks?
Voted with
State troopers don't wear masks.
And looking against those.
Why are Republicans committed?
Well, those decisions, of course, will be articulated by Democratic Whip Catherine Clark at the appropriate time. It's my expectation we'll have a discussion tomorrow as well about these so-called criminal contempt resolutions. House Republicans cannot be taken seriously on this issue. The Department of Justice is now withholding, in violation of the law, more than 3 million documents related
This
to
is
the
on
Epstein
Republicans
files.
right now.
More than 3 million
In
documents.
terms of what happened
And we don't hear a
on
peep
Friday.
from James Comer or any Republicans about the failure of the Department of Justice to comply with a law,
Demands for
as well as a
dramatic
subpoena that had been previously
reform
issued
are
in a
clear.
bipartisan way. I'm a hard
There's a
no
line in the sand that we've drawn.
on
We have
the
to-
shenanigans of House Republicans. I don't believe it's serious. And I also think that there have been ongoing discussions by the Clintons and their lawyers to testify that have been repeatedly, apparently, rejected
We've made
by House Republicans on the Oversight Committee
throughout this Congress.
because they don't want a serious
We're not
interview,
down with the
they want a
violence of the
charade.
approach.
And it's not something that I'm down with.
Republicans tried to convince all of us, the American people,
Jeffries, on the weekend shows,
that we
you
were
talked
in this
about
consent,
wanting a
irreversible
clear path for
MAGA
this,
revolution.
to know that the Trump administration is serious about working on
None
this
of us on the
funding. But
Democratic
what does
side
that
of
look
the
like?
House
Do
ever
you
believe?
want to speak to President Trump? What do you need to
Because
have that
the
clear
bottom
path?
line is, Republicans wouldn't even be in the majority.
Speaker
in the
Johnson and
House
I have
right
been
now
in close
had they
communication.
not
I've also been in
stolen
close communication with Leader
North
Schumer.
Carolina.
Still haven't seen a clear path articulated, an ironclad path articulated by the Trump administration
They wouldn't
related
be
to
in
the
majority
type
right
of
now.
dramatic changes that are necessary in order to rein ICE in. It's out of control, and the American people know it,
MAGA takeover.
as evidenced in public opinion survey after public opinion survey after public opinion survey, including amongst Donald Trump supporters.
Continue to be
They know
destroyed
he's gone too far.
electorally.
The American people know that Donald Trump lied to them. He said, we're going to target violent felons. Instead, they're targeting 5-year-old boys
More than 25
with Spider-Man backpacks.
in this country have been flipped by
They're horrifying the
Democrats.
American people.
Zip zero.
And so Democrats are committed to this fight. And again, we've made clear,
Most
line
recently,
in the sand, red line.
everybody
We've articulated the things that will be necessary for there to be a full year appropriations bill connected to ICE funding, because we're standing on the side of the American people,
State Senate,
some of whom have been killed in cold blood
17 points.
by ICE in plain sight,
And the Democrat wins by
horrifying
14.
the American
That was
people.
a 31-point
Thanks.
overperformance. Shocking.
You say that your side won't help on the rule. It sounds like some Democrats might be willing to vote yes
Then I
on the
was
bill.
amazed because
That's okay?
I indicated there's a variety
That
of
was
different
the high
perspectives, and we'll continue to have that discussion.
And what's the issue with some of them
31-point
saying that?
overperformance
They want
in a
FEMA money,
state
they
Senate
have
district
earmarked
in
projects
Texas
that are
that's
important to the
larger than
district, they're moderate
congressional
Democrats from swing states.
You'll have to talk to them.
Well, I mean, but what's,
in Louisiana, which just happens
so
to be
why is there a
the home
difference
state
between the rule and the bill?
of the Speaker of the House.
Republicans are in the majority in this institution that has now been around for more than
Presumably,
200 years.
Ground zero
It's hard to cite an example
of the MAGA
where in an institution that is majoritarian in nature, as you know,
State House seat.
where the minority steps in to help the majority pass a rule, when, as I've indicated to you,
13 points.
there are multiple bills within that rule that we strongly disagree with and do not support,
Democratic candidate.
separate and apart
wait for
from
it,
the appropriations
just
issue.
won by
I mean,
24
that's
points
not too difficult to
in
contemplate.
Louisiana.
On rare
A part
occasions
of Mike Johnson
have
and
we
Steve
stepped in
Scalise territory.
to deal with Republican dysfunction,
That was a
including in the last
7
Congress,
point
where it related to making sure that we funded our ally Ukraine, because we had to stop the pro-Putin caucus within the House
It's
Republican
over for
Conference
these extremes.
from undermining
And so the notion
the free world, our
that in the
values,
face
democracy,
of
freedom,
Republicans being
and truth,
rejected
as
all
opposed to
across
continuing
America, and Democratic
to play footsie with Vladimir
up and
Putin.
down
That
the
was a
ballot,
rare
throughout the
occasion.
country being embraced.
Hard to cite
And the
another
notion that
example
This week, Republicans will
in the
now
last
proceed
few
with a
Congresses
my way or the highway
that actually
approach and act like they have
involved
the high ground
Democrats
on any
stepping in
issue
to help
they
Republicans
do not.
govern an institution when
It's
Mike
over for these
Johnson
people.
and my Republican colleagues have spent the last
Apparently
year
they're the only
lecturing the country
having come
that
back.
they have some massive mandate. If they have some massive mandate, then go pass your rule, which includes toxic bills that we don't support. Don't come to us unless you actually want to negotiate on the substance of getting things done
Trump
that make
clearly
life better for the
nationalized
American.
The election because he knows if there's a free and fair election.
You
Like the
mentioned
House is
Texas. I
gone.
wanted to ask you about one of the
Senate
results.
majority
The
likely
state
gone as
Senate
well.
race there, we saw a Democrat
Republicans
actually flip
Because the
a
American
seat
people
that Trump won by
see,
7
as Democrats, we're the only ones actually fighting hard
I just
on the
wanted
issues that matter
to
to
get a
drive
sense
down the
from you,
high cost
obviously,
fix
Texas
our open
primary
health system,
races
and to clean up
happened.
corruption and the mess
Are you
that Donald
feeling
Trump and
confident
Republican
that
policies
Democrats could
have
possibly
created.
win 4 out of the 5?
Republicans have adopted
seats?
voter suppression as an electoral strategy. That's what
Yes.
the so-called SAVE Act is all about.
Republicans done effed up
And this version is
in
worse
Texas,
than the last
and they
version.
know it. We knew it
Because this version,
months ago,
as I understand it,
and
would actually
it's because
give
of a variety of reasons. First of all,
DHS
they were never going to get
the
5
power
seats, but
to get voting
they created a scenario where they tried to take 5
on
seats
states.
away from Democrats. Didn't think that we were going to
Why would
respond.
these extremists
California responds
think
decisively,
that's a
and we
good
will
idea
pick up 5 seats
that
as a
we
result
as
of Prop
Democrats
50
are going to accept at this
in
moment
California. And it remains to be seen what happens in Texas. I can guarantee you they won't.
Brutally, viciously,
win 5
and
seats.
violently targeting every
They're going to
American
struggle
to have
to win
more data
3
about the American
based on 2024
It's outrageous.
performance,
Something is really wrong with these folks.
let alone
I think
what
they're
we've seen
trying to lose elections.
literally over the last year.
They're a disaster.
And let me congratulate
They failed.
Taylor Remmett, who ran an extraordinary
So,
campaign. It was a decisive
The only path forward,
victory. It was a shellacking
list
for
of 10
Republicans
those demands are
in
completely
Texas
consistent with the values of
that even
America,
caught Ron DeSantis' attention. They can't ignore it.
a direct response.
And by the way,
And Donald Trump
Republicans have been losing elections, and Democrats have been winning elections since January of last year.
are ready to enthusiastically
Irrefutable
embrace
fact.
on behalf of
This
the
has
American
now gone on for
so-called
13
SAVE Act,
consecutive
a
months.
version that's worse than the prior version.
And during the
It's
entirety
voted
of the
down. It's
Trump
not
presidency,
passed.
Democrats haven't
It's
lost
squeezed
a
by the
single
House.
meaningful
It's dead on
election.
arrival in the
Not
Senate.
one.
They're wasting time.
Not one.
Again, why are Republicans
We won the
trying to do
Iowa
everything
special
but
election
make life better for the American
In January, that was a district that Trump had just won by 20 points, a state Senate seat in Iowa,
in the 250th
decisively
anniversary
won
of this great country.
an election in
Are they
February
unaware of the principle of federalism?
for the Westchester County Executive in a district partially
This
represented by
Republicans
Mike
used to embrace federalism,
Lawler.
but now that they're part of a cult,
In March, we won
they do whatever. the
a
cult
state
says.
Senate race in Pennsylvania in a part of the Commonwealth where we hadn't had representation in over 100 years. It was a district that Donald Trump had just won by 15 points.
It's not yet been
In
called.
April of last
Yes,
year,
so we're
we
still
won
monitoring.
a special election in the Wisconsin State Supreme Court
Then whoever
contest
emerges will be
by
prepared
over
to stand
11
by
points in a state that Donald Trump had just won, where Elon Musk spent over $25 million.
that a Democrat
In May, for the first time in 12 years,
seat left
we won the mayor
by Governor Maxwell.
race in Omaha, Nebraska, and elected an African American for the first time ever in the history of that great state. In the off-year elections in November, we won all over the country. In Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York. Flipped seats in Mississippi to break the Republican supermajority in the state Senate. Won 3
Of course,
state Supreme Court races
economy.
in Pennsylvania.
Democrats being committed
One
to
statewide
driving
in
down
Georgia
the high cost of living.
for the first time
America is too expensive
in 20 years.
right now. Donald Trump has made
Crushed
the
it
affordability
in California
crisis worse
with Prop 50.
here in the country. And
Democrats in the off-year
continue to
elections
say it's a hoax. Or that we're
won
not talking about it.
up and down the
The
ballot
problem is Donald
across
Trump
the
spends all
country.
his time watching
in
state
statewide
TV
races, in
as
county
opposed to actually interacting
legislative
with
races,
everyday
and at all
Americans.
points in between. And then in
No.
December of
The
last year,
affordability crisis is very real. So we're
we
focused on
won
economy,
the mayor's race in Miami
focused
for the first time in
on
almost
fixing
30
our
years.
healthcare system in an environment
Crushed the Republican
where
opposition.
Republicans enacted their one big ugly bill.
And then
the largest cut to
2 days
Medicaid
ago,
in American history.
in Texas, this
literally
is
ripping
extraordinary. In a
well
district
from the mouths of hungry children.
that Donald Trump won by
Taking
17 points,
healthcare away from more than
the
14
Democrat
million people.
wins by
Hospitals,
14
nursing
points.
homes,
That's a
community-based health clinics
31-point
closing across
swing.
America
No
because
one's
of
ever seen
Republican
anything
policy.
like that. in modern American political history. Democrats are doing that. A 50-point swing in Texas amongst Hispanic voters. And state Senate districts in Texas aren't small. They're bigger than congressional districts. That has sent a chill down the spine of every single House Republican in Texas and across the country. And it gets worse for them because Republicans spent over $2.4 million to try to hold the seat that Donald Trump had just won by 17 points, and the Democrats spent about $400,000. Outspent 6-1 and crushed the Republican extremists.
Violent felons, but to target American
At what point will Republican extremists come to the conclusion that your reach ain't long enough and your peeps ain't strong enough? You are on the verge of losing control of the House of Representatives in November, and the Senate is looking increasingly shaky as well. Republicans have failed. Democrats are on the move because the American people have had
at the Supreme Court, and certainly and in that context, the American people are correctly demanding transparency and accountability as it relates to the Epstein files. What is the administration hiding?
I mentioned on Friday that Congresswoman Trellis McCormick is entitled to the presumption of innocence, like every other American. I'm a hard no as it relates to the effort to expel her, and it's going to fail.
Consistent with what the American people want.
Thank you. If House Republicans had to say back to this year's funding package, are Democrats prepared for the welfare?
Well, the SAVE Act is dead on arrival. It's not going anywhere in the Senate. And the Republicans have failed on the issue of immigration enforcement. These people are desperate. They've lost their advantage on every single issue that they thought was going to be part of some permanent realignment. How is it possible that they actually convinced people that there was some permanent realignment when they haven't won a race in 13 months? It's confusing to me. Their policies have failed completely. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular. Democrats have been up in the generic ballot for months. And everybody understands if the election were held today, they're going down in flames on the other side. Because Democrats are the only group of people actually focused not on partisan bills like the SAVE Act, so-called SAVE Act, but on actually making life better for the American people, driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, cleaning up corruption, making it clear here in America, our view, you work hard, you play by the rules, as hundreds of millions of Americans do, you should be able to live an affordable life, a comfortable life, live the good life. That's what Democrats are fighting hard to bring about. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody understands that Democrats were successful in articulating the narrative during the Trump Republican 43-day government shutdown that in part resulted in 17 House Republicans joining every single House Democrat and passing a straightforward extension on our terms, 3 years, of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Democrats are governing in the minority as if we were in the majority. We've had more successful discharge petitions led by Democrats in this Congress. Good afternoon, everyone. Over the last few months, House Democrats have repeatedly made clear that we will work with anyone in this town to solve problems for hardworking American taxpayers
To the American people.
and make life better for everyday Americans, particularly as it relates to driving down the high cost of living. We will work with anyone in this town. At the same time, we of course will continue to push back against far-right extremism that is hurting the American people And we will continue to keep it real
To say, the affordability
with the American
crisis in America
people.
is very real.
House
It
Republicans
is a clear
don't appear
and
interested
present danger to the
in
economic
working
well-being
for
of working class Americans,
everyday
middle-class
Americans
and every
and solving problems for hardworking American taxpayers. Why?
Failed the country when it comes
Because
to
they
the
are
economy.
working
Republicans
for
promised
Elon
that
Musk
they were going to lower the high
and
cost of
doing
living
the
on day
bidding
one
of an unelected,
of Donald Trump's presidency.
unaccountable,
But costs haven't
out
gone
of
down
control
in the United States of America.
billionaire puppet
Costs
master.
have gone up.
Why does
under
Elon
failed
Musk
Republican
and his minions
policies.
need access to the
Housing
names,
costs are out of control.
social security
Grocery costs
numbers,
are out of control.
addresses,
Healthcare costs
birth
are out of
dates,
control. Utility
and bank
bills
account
are out of
information
control. And
of
childcare
millions
costs
of Americans. Why does he
are out
need
of
that
control.
information?
The affordability crisis in
What
the
are they
United States of
doing with
America
it?
is very real.
And why aren't House
Republicans
Republicans
have failed to lower the
stopping
high cost
them?
of living. And as a
They're
result
not
of the
stopping
Trump
them
tariffs, costs are
because they're
going
not
up
working
by
in the best
thousands
interest of the
dollars
American
per
people.
year on
They're
everyday
simply
Americans.
following
Democrats remain
far-right
committed
extreme orders.
driving down the high cost of living, to fixing our
That is why
broken
we are
healthcare
introducing
system, and to ensuring that we have
the Taxpayer
immigration
Data
enforcement policies
Protection
in this
Act
country that are fair, just,
to shield the American people
humane.
from this out-of-control
Republicans
power grab
have failed
permanently,
America on
and to make
affordability,
sure that the
on
financial,
on
personal,
immigration,
medical,
and, they have
and
failed
confidential
to make
information
life better
of the American
for the
people
American people.
is protected.
Questions?
In that regard, so thankful for the leadership of Congresswoman Haley Stevens and Congressman Sean Casten, and it's my honor to yield to Congresswoman Stevens.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leader. It is truly serious and absolutely essential that I'm standing up here today with you as our Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, alongside our Democratic whip and our Democratic caucus chair, Democratic whip Catherine Clark, Democratic caucus chair Pete Aguilar. I think all of you in this room know them. As we seek to introduce, and we take the steps to introduce, the Taxpayer Data Protection Act. You see, during the start of a different presidential administration in a different time, I was a Schedule C political appointee in the Department of the Treasury during a true time of economic crisis for this nation. Barack Obama's swearing in January of 2009, when we were facing a great recession, as a Michigander, when our auto industry was staring true liquidation and bankruptcy in the face, when millions of Americans were facing job loss, in addition to housing insecurity, our financial markets were being rocked, and our insurance sector was on shaky footing. A group of us came together into the Treasury Department.
Trump administration,
it almost didn't matter what party you were. And in fact, the previous administration under George Bush kept some of his people there. We stayed together. We worked together to address this economic crisis. I was on the auto rescue team with a man named Steve Ratner. We had an initiative called the Troubled Asset Relief Program, and it was sizable dollars of federal money, of taxpayer money, to save our economy from true devastation. But no one was poking around in the Bureau of Fiscal Service.
And in some cases,
no one was seeking to get access to taxpayer data or financial information that has to do with the wires and the complication of those goods. We were standing up for people and making a difference for them. So this Taxpayer Data Protection Act, which will push back against these alarming and potentially illegal actions that are taking place, these headlines to the American people are alarming. They are absolutely alarming. The news writes them, but the headline is that Musk has your data, that Musk has control of the systems, as a Treasury
sensitive
appointee,
locations like schools,
that is unfathomable.
hospitals,
That is totally
houses of
unbelievable
worship, and
and
polling sites.
wrong. So our Taxpayer Data
And
Protection
independent
Act
investigations to ensure
will seek to make sure
when ICE officials
that the payment
break the
systems
law,
don't have reckless
state and local
interference,
officials
that
can
those
investigate
who have access to them can't
them
just be
and
a
prosecute
special appointee,
anyone
a political appointee, as
who has
how
committed
we
a
schedule
crime
the appointees. No,
in the
it
United
needs
States
to
of
be
America.
overseen by someone who
House and
has
Senate
the
Democrats
top
have
security
clearly
clearance,
transmitted
who has the
to the
credentials,
American
who
people
doesn't have the conflict of interest.
and clearly
We
transmitted
love our country and we
to the
want
White
what is
House
best for our country.
and
And
our
you heard
colleagues
our
in the
leader
House and
say
the
it
Senate.
true.
the types of dramatic
We have to
changes
focus
that
on
need
what
to
the
occur
American people are facing.
at the Department of Homeland
Rising
Security
costs,
before funding bill
home
moves forward
ownership,
this Friday, and we're still waiting to hear
making
back
systems
from the White
work for
House.
people. We've got fantastic
Which shows to me
employment,
that these
but we've
extremists
got to
aren't
do
serious
costs. And that is what we are focused
about
on.
getting ICE under
And the
control.
Taxpayer Data Protection Act will stand up to these questions and these concerning behaviors of Elon Musk. And with that, I have a colleague who I'm introducing this bill with, Sean Casten, a very accomplished member of the House Financial Services Committee and a true expert in these matters as well.
On this matter, where the American people
Thank you, Haley. Thank you to our whole leadership team. You know, days like today make me so proud to be a Democrat. We are in the midst of a constitutional crisis, and we are doing the work. The amount of work that went through on very short order to deal with this emergency that's coming through is because people who care about their job, who take their patriotism seriously, their oath to the Constitution seriously, and that's what we're here to do. I wish we didn't have to do it, but my God, I'm proud to be on this team. We are here today because there is a narcissistic billionaire running the government who peddles in fascism, is known for his history of lying, short-paying his vendors, terminating employees who challenge his worldview, and using the judicial system as a cudgel against anyone who dares challenge him. And if you are listening to that and saying, is he talking about Donald Trump or Elon Musk, then you kind of get the problem, don't you? The actions that Musk and his IT goons have taken through, they're illegal, very clearly illegal, but so far unprosecuted actions, have already compromised millions of Americans' privacy and data security. And if you want to understand how nervous you should all be, think about how hard Donald Trump worked to protect his tax returns from becoming public, even under a legitimate subpoena from the House of Representatives. Why do we think that Elon Musk and Donald Trump would like to have access to your home address, your bank records, your history of charitable giving, alimony payments you may have made, child care payments you may have made, all of this private information that you would like? Why do we think they want that information? Why do we think that they want the ability to illegally stop payments that are legally due to hospitals that may be providing women's health care services they don't support, to veterans agencies that are helping our veterans, to Social Security recipients who maybe marched at a rally and said something they didn't like? Why are they doing that? Why did they allow a bunch of let's be honest, practically children, teenagers, young 20-somethings, why did they allow them to go into systems that control trillions of dollars of Treasury payments that every one of our adversaries would deeply like to hack into? Because if they could hack into there, they could destroy the U.S. economy. Why did they allow these children to go in there with unsecured software and hardware and tamper with those systems? Why did they do that at the same time that they were firing FBI agents, firing CIA agents? What is the consequence of that? If we close this barn door today, how much is already burned down?
So we can actually
We don't know the answers to those questions. I wish we didn't have to ask.
Tens of millions of Americans
but those are the stakes of this moment. And there's an even larger question, as our leader alluded to. Why is the Department of Justice not enforcing the law and prosecuting these crimes right now?
That's unacceptable.
Why do we not have Republicans who all took the same oath we did a couple weeks ago to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic?
House Republicans
Why are they standing there doing nothing?
A month ago.
I know every one of us was elected to lead. None of us went out in the elections and said, if you elect me, I will promise to cower before the first bully who shows up. That's what we're here to do, to lead. This legislation is an important first step. We're not going to stand idly by, and this legislation will become law. All we need is 3 Republicans to show a little bit of patriotism to join us in this effort. I know they're out there. I know they've got the
We don't
patriotism.
look at
They've
the
got to show the
moment that we're
courage.
in as
That's where we are right now.
exercising
Thank you so much.
over
I
the
should
other
mention
side.
that our office
wanna
has received
fund
more
the
phone calls on
government
this
in a
topic than
manner
anything in my 6 years of
actually
Congress.
promotes the health, the safety,
And I say that only because if I leave here early, it is only because we called a telephone town hall that's starting in about 30 minutes, and I have to be talking to people because they are all deathly concerned about what this means for them for all the reasons that I articulated. Hopefully I'll be able to stick around for questions. In the meantime, turn it over to our wonderful and talented Whip, Catherine.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Congressman Caston and Congresswoman Stevens, for bringing us the Taxpayer Data Protection Act, because this is going to address the deep anxiety across the country about Elon Musk hacking into Americans' most personal information and the illegal cutting of federal funding for critical services. Last week, I received a note from a public school teacher in my district. She was very concerned about what's going to happen to education and federal funding for her school. She worried about the grants that might not be there that help provide special education services in her school and across this country. She worried about the school lunches not being available for her students that need them. But the thing she told me she was worried about more than anything else, she wrote, as a citizen of the nation, I am even more concerned about the overt power grab and overreach we're seeing from an unelected billionaire. I've heard the same thing from Head Start caregivers, from veterans and firefighters, from nurses and doctors at our community health centers, from seniors watching Elon infiltrate their Social Security and Medicare information, calling our office terrified, wondering if they're going to get their next Social Security check. The American people are paying attention. They have watched Republicans not just stand in silence, but cheer on the illegal actions that are going to make their lives harder, more expensive, and compromise the security of their personal information. All the while enriching further Elon Musk. Democrats are fighting back with everything we've got, and we will use every tool at our disposal to protect the interests of the American people, to uphold the Constitution, and guard everyday families from this Republican billionaire's first agenda. Elon can buy a lot. He's the richest man in the world. But the American people and their security is not for sale. If House Republicans believe that the federal government belongs to the people, that the theft of taxpayer money is wrong, then they will join us in bringing this legislation up for a vote. In the House, it takes 3 patriots to speak out for their constituents and to stand up for their country, to stop stealing from the deserving, to further enrich the billionaire class. 3 GOP members can end this today. And now I'll turn it over to our distinguished chairman of the House, Pete Aguilar.
Zip zero on the other side.
Thank you, Whip Clark and Leader Jeffries, and I want to thank the leadership of Haley Stevens and Sean Caston for introducing this bill, because House Democrats will not sit by as an unelected billionaire with controversial ties to China is given access to the most sensitive personal data about the American people, and to potentially use that data to illegally cut programs that are vital to our national security, just to help pay for tax cuts to benefit his own bottom line. We will not stay silent as House Republicans surrender Congress's constitutional power in order to allow MAGA extremists and conspiracy theorists to continue. We know that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are just as outraged as we are, but they have to keep quiet out of fear of retribution from the MAGA extremists. We only need 3 Republicans with the courage of their convictions to join our efforts to protect the American people from this extreme and illegal overreach. Today, they're
zero.
illegally gutting USAID, which prevents China and other adversaries from expanding their influence. But tomorrow, it's your health insurance. The next day, it's your mother's Social Security check. This is not what the American people voted for. The Taxpayer Data Protection Act will rein in the corruption we're seeing at the White House and put an end to this chaos. Turn it over to Leader Jeffries.
On-topic questions?
Won by 24 points in Louisiana.
Bill that you discussed with Leader Schumer the other
The
day.
heart of Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise
Can you just help
territory.
me clarify how this
That was
bill
a
connects to what you?
Yeah, it's our expectation that Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats will introduce a companion bill shortly. We believe that
Over for these
the unlawful access
And so the
to
notion
sensitive and
that
financial
in the face
information for hardworking American
rejected
taxpayers
all
has to be
across America
stopped.
and Democratic
And we know
candidates
here in the
up
House,
and down the
unfortunately,
ballot throughout the country
that
being
the House
embraced.
Republican leadership
The notion that this week
has demonstrated no interest
Republicans
in
will
reining
proceed
in
with a
this out-of-control
highway or the
behavior.
highway approach
Here in the House,
and
all it
act like
takes
they have the high ground on
are
any
3 Republicans
issue. They do not.
to join with us
It's over for these people.
to protect the American
They're the
people.
only ones who haven't come to that conclusion.
Leader Jeffries, in addition to this bill, what do you see as the options that Democrats have to push back on Elon Musk's efforts and doges?
We will continue to use the congressional arena as well as
Trump clearly wants to nationalize
the litigation
election
arena
because he knows if there's a free
and the
fair election,
mobilization
it's over.
arena to push back
Right, the House is
against
gone.
the far-right extremism that we are
Senate
seeing
majority
across the board
likely gone as well.
from this administration and from
The
House
American people
Republicans.
see, as Democrats,
We will introduce
we're the
legislation.
only ones actually
We will
fighting
move that
hard
legislation
on the
aggressively.
issues that matter, to drive down
We
the
will
high
work
cost of living, to
through
fix
the
our
court
broken healthcare
system,
and to
and we
clean
will
up
continue to
corruption and the
communicate
mess
to the
that
American
Donald Trump
people
and
about what's
Republican
happening, why it's
policies have
happening,
created.
and why the promises that were
Republicans
made
have adopted voter
by Republicans
suppression
to
as
lower
an
the high
electoral
cost of living
strategy.
aren't being kept.
That's what the so-called SAVE Act is all about.
This is day
And this version
18
is worse than the
of this
last
new
version.
administration. Not a
Because
single
this
bill,
version,
not a single
as I
idea,
understand it,
not a single
would
initiative
actually
to lower the high
give
cost of living. Housing costs in America
DHS
are too
the
high.
power
Child care costs are too high.
get
Grocery
voting
costs are too
records
high. Utility costs are
from
too high.
states
And insurance costs are
across
too
the
high.
country.
We've seen nothing
Why would these extremists think
from House
that's
Republicans,
a good
nothing from the
idea
administration.
that we as Democrats are going
They
to
told the
accept
American
at this
people one
moment in
thing
time?
and they're doing another.
We want
And they're not
DHS
even
and
stepping
ICE
in to protect
who
the
have
best
been
interests of the American
brutally,
people, which is why
viciously, and violently
Taxpayer
targeting
Data
everyday Americans
Protection
to
Act
have more data
is so urgently needed.
about the American people.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Can you attempt
It's
to answer
outrageous.
your own
Something is
question
really
that you
wrong
and
with these
Mr.
folks.
Cassidy
I think
posed,
they're
which is,
trying to lose elections.
why is Elon Musk
At this
accessing
point.
all of this data?
They're a disaster.
Federal
They
agencies
failed.
mentioned Names, social security numbers,
And so,
medical records, things like that.
The only path forward,
What is your
given a list of
fear
10
here
demands,
about why he is doing this?
those
It's a great
demands
question.
are
I'm going to yield to our two
completely consistent
sponsors.
with the values of the American people.
Well,
And we're
certainly
waiting for
we need that
direct
answer,
response.
but we know that we need
Donald
the
Trump, the White
protection.
House, and
This is
Republicans on Capitol Hill.
uncharted,
then we can have a
unprecedented ground. I'm
we
telling you as a former Treasury
are ready to
person, I mean, I was
enthusiastically
there during an
embrace
actual
on
crisis,
behalf of the
not a
American people.
self-inflicted
The so-called
crisis.
SAVE Act, a
We need
version
the
that's
answer
worse than the
to
prior version,
why
is
he's doing
going
it.
down. It's
We
not
need our
going to
legislation.
pass.
We need this
If it squeaks
Taxpayer
by the
Data
House,
Protection
It's
Act.
dead on arrival.
This is unbelievable lawlessness. We've always had this trust
why are
between the
Republicans
House,
trying
the
to do
Senate, the
everything but make
presidency,
life better for the
and then
American
in comes this executive
focused
order
on
that seemingly has allowed
nationalizing the election
this individual
in the
to go
250th
in to the
anniversary
Fiscal
of this great
Bureau
country.
of the United States
Are
of
they unaware
America
of the
and say
principle
that
of
he has your
federalism?
information.
In America,
While people
traditional
are
Republicans used to
struggling to
embrace
pay the
federalism.
bills. Let's be honest,
But now
as the
that they're
leader
part
just
of a
said.
cult,
So, yes,
they do whatever
all
the cult leader
they
tells
need to
them.
do is we got to have 3 join us and get this bill passed. And by the way, my friends, the first Friday of this month is tomorrow. Jobs numbers are coming
Yet,
out.
so we're closely monitoring
We didn't see a slip for the last 4 years.
And then
I just
whoever
want to
emerges,
just talk about what I'm truly afraid of, and I'm saying what's happening. And to give some context, I was talking with one of my Republican colleagues and friends not long ago, and I said, what would it take for you to stand up to Donald Trump? And the immediate answer without a moment's thought was, how'd that work out for Adam Kinzinger? There's a deep fear of what a bully will do. Rule my dad taught me was on the playground, never start a fight, but if the bully punches, you punch him back harder, because that keeps him from coming back. Bullies are cowards at core. So what am I afraid of? That they are going to use data that they are legally not allowed to use to act as a bully. So what does that mean for my home state of Illinois, where our Governor Pritzker has been very forceful in calling him out? If they take control of the stop payments, does Illinois all of a sudden not get their Medicaid reimbursement money? What does it do for, someone, we've already seen him take security details away from Liz Cheney, right? While releasing people who attack cops out into the public. If they're willing to do that and threaten that, well, what might they do to someone who's on a fixed income but had the strength of their convictions? What they know is that every time we have faced crises like these in our history, inevitably the movements that have toppled tyranny have been led by people who had gotten to a point where they had nothing left to lose. The Parkland students who survived, the Mamie Tills of the world, right? If they can find those people who have almost nothing left to lose and say, well, I'm going to cut off your Social Security payments if you step up. I'm going to cut off your veterans benefit payments. I'm going to cut off your SNAP payments. This is despotism, right? And I think a part of our message to everybody is that fear is contagious, but so is courage. And we want to make sure that people act with courage and the strength of their convictions, and hope that what we're showing now maybe spreads to a few folks across the aisle.
Are increasingly unable to go see a doctor.
You've alluded to this
when
with
they
the
need
three
one.
Republicans, but just
And
to
all
get
of this, of
clarity, are
course,
you
was
talking about a
done
discharge
in
petition?
that one big
And if so,
ugly bill
can you tell me a little bit
to
about the
enact
timeline of that?
dramatic
And also, have you had any
tax
conversations
breaks,
with Republicans
big tax
who you
breaks.
believe might be willing to sign up?
We're
going to explore all legislative options available to us. We know that this legislation needs to move and needs to move with urgency to protect the best interests of the American people. And all it takes
The fact that
are three Republicans, only three,
and in
to
part,
partner with us, and we can figure out the legislative vehicle
so that they could
to
give
get
ICE
this
a slush
done
fund,
in the House of Representatives.
not to go after violent felons, but to target American citizens, in some cases kill
What
them,
is your game plan if Trump does not abide by
also
a court order, if they don't follow
violently
the
go
direction?
after law-abiding
What do you
immigrant
do
families. All unacceptable.
That's a hypothetical. The lawyers are working through those dynamics. That's
Democrats are
always a
committed
question
to fixing our broken healthcare
that
Third,
litigants have to confront
we need to
and be
clean up
prepared
corruption
for.
here in the
But
United
we've
States
seen
of
the
America.
Article
In the
3
House,
federal court
in the
system
Senate,
hold to date,
at the Supreme Court,
and it's my
and
expectation
certainly with the
that the judiciary
And
will
in that
continue to hold the
context,
line in the best
the
interest
American
of the
people are
American
correctly
people, as
demanding
will House Democrats in the United States
transparency
Congress.
and accountability as it relates
Third
to the
row.
Epstein files. What is the administration hiding? Who are they trying to protect? These are questions that, of course, led by Robert Garcia, Jamie Raskin, and Teresa Leger Fernandez, House Democrats are going to continue to press forward on, consistent with what the American people are doing.
Is there any mechanism?
What we are seeing unfold is an unlawful power grab by a unelected and unaccountable billionaire puppet master who's pulling the strings of House Republicans and apparently the Trump administration.
On the wrong side of every single issue. which
So
is
it's an
why
all
they
hands
are
on deck
getting
approach on
crushed
behalf of hardworking
electorally.
American
This is a
taxpayers.
desperate effort by Republicans to
Legislation,
distract. The so-called
litigation,
SAVE Act is not
mobilization,
about voter
communication
identification. It is about
with the
voter
American people, and that's what we're
And they have
engaging in.
zero
And in fact,
credibility on
this
issue.
particular issue, that's what
Republicans,
you've
in the same way
seen
that they have
occur.
zero
People have
credibility on
showed
every
up
other issue,
at the Department of
which is why they
Treasury.
continue
We're
to
moving
be
litigation.
routed
We're
electorally.
speaking about the threats
including
to the American people presented
and states
by
Donald
these
Trump
extremists having
comfortably
access,
in November.
think about this, to names,
The last shutdown, the
birth
43-day
dates,
shutdown was over the
Social
ACA
Security,
extensions, and the shutdown
numbers,
ended without getting those
addresses,
extensions. What's your belief
and
as to
bank
how
account
this
information?
next shutdown could end? Do you have guarantees for the American people that
And so,
these demands will happen? The
this
last
legislation is an important
Yes, and
step
the last ones did actually
in
happen
one
in the
of the
House of
arenas that will continue to be part of our all-hands-on-deck effort.
Healthcare generally and the Affordable
Last
Care
question.
Act specifically in September
A little bit earlier
of
about
2025
Speaker
until
Johnson
House
and Leader
Democrats,
Hakeem not
joined by
stepping up
Senate
and
Democrats,
standing up
started to talk about it
for
in the
Elon
context
Do
of the
you feel
looming
like Leader
crisis
Thune and Speaker
because
Johnson
of the
are advocating
pending
their
expiration of the
constitutional
Affordable Care Act
authority
tax
by allowing
credit.
the president and Elon Musk
Everybody
to
understands
overstep, especially when it comes to Congress'
that
authority? And do you think we're in a constitutional
Democrats
crisis?
Let me simply just say that House Democrats will continue to make clear to our Republican colleagues that we will work with anyone in this town to solve problems for the American people, to drive down the high cost of living, to secure the border while protecting dreamers, farm workers, and families, and keep our communities safe. We'll work with anyone to bring the American dream to life and bring our jobs back home. But that's not what we're seeing
as if we were in the majority.
from House Republicans,
We've had
and that's
more
unfortunate.
successful discharge petitions
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
led by
Thank you,
Democrats
everyone.
in this Congress over the last few months than have occurred in the last 2 decades combined. So the one thing we can guarantee to the American people is that we're in this fight on their behalf until we win this fight and begin the process of ending the national nightmare
And hurt the American people. It is a false choice that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and House Republicans have been presenting between their reckless and partisan spending bill and a government shutdown. Why are we here right now in terms of the moment that is in front of us? It's because Donald Trump and House Republicans decided to walk away from the negotiating table
that they were going to lower the high cost of living
when there were bipartisan
Day one.
conversations ongoing between House Democrats,
But costs haven't
House
gone down
Republicans,
in the
Senate
United
Democrats,
States.
and Senate Republicans in a manner consistent
Under failed
with the
Republican
Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act
housing
that was
costs are out of
passed
control.
in May of
Grocery
2022.
costs are out of control. Healthcare
Donald
costs
Trump ordered House Republicans to walk away from the negotiating table
and
at
child
the end of
care
February.
are out of control. The affordability
House Republicans
crisis
then
in the
passed
United
a
States of
partisan
America
and
is
reckless
very
bill that
Republicans
cuts
have
funding
failed
for
to lower the
health
high
care,
cost of
cuts
living.
funding for veterans, and
And
cuts
as a result of the
funding
Trump tariffs,
for nutritional assistance
are
to
going up
children
by thousands
and
of
families.
dollars per year.
It's an unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American spending bill. That's why House Democrats remain strongly opposed. Donald Trump orders them to walk away from the negotiating table.
In this country that are
Step
fair,
one.
just,
Step two, House Republicans pass a partisan
Republicans
and
have
reckless
failed America
spending bill.
on affordability,
And then step three,
on health care,
House Republicans get out of town.
enforcement. And they have
Where are they
failed
at
to
right
make
now?
life better.
House Democrats are here. We're ready to pass a 4-week spending bill that keeps the government open and will allow the House and the Senate to negotiate an actual agreement that meets the needs of the American people. But we do not support
ICE is out of control
a bill
now.
that is designed to hurt the American people that Donald Trump and far-right extremist Republicans are trying to jam down the throats of everyday Americans.
Not brutalize.
Now yield to our distinguished whip, Catherine Clark.
Our position has been
Thank you so much,
dramatic
Mr. Leader. Proud to
changes
stand
are
here with
needed
you and Chairman Aguilar.
Homeland security.
What we saw is a GOP that campaigned on a promise to the American people that they would lower their costs, they would make their families safer. And in the last 7 weeks, we've seen them do just the opposite. They've slashed Medicaid. They've taken away veterans' benefits. They are attacking the funding for our public schools. They are out there saying elimination of Social Security and Medicare, it's the only way to balance our budget. And we have been clear with this process that led us to this vote today that we would join them in any CR, in any spending plan that protected Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, feed hungry kids in this country, and keep our schools open. But that's not what they did. And when they put forward this bill, not only is it bad on the four corners of it, but we saw House GOP member after House GOP member come out and say in public, I wasn't sure about signing on to this until I met with the Trump administration, and they told me this is their vehicle for further dismantling the services that people who work for a living depend on in this country. And that's why we're unified in our opposition. And we are not going to buy into this false binary decision that it's a parade of bad choices. We know that already. We know what this administration and their enablers in the GOP and Congress are doing to the American people. Shutdowns are terrible. But so is this dismantling and this scheme to take deserving taxpayers' money and give it to the billionaire class. Each and every step of this is part of that scheme against everyday Americans who are waving their hands at this administration and saying, live up to what you told us you would do. You are betraying us. There is a reason the House GOP said, let's cancel town halls. Because they don't want to face the voters they are betraying. So we're saying at this moment, come back to the table. Come back and negotiate. We've never had a shutdown where one party controls the White House, the House, and the Senate. That has never happened for a reason. And so this is a very unprecedented situation and an unprecedented disaster for the people who sent us here. If we do not do everything in our power to fight back and say, come back to the table, make a plan that is centered around the American people. And I'm proud to join in this fight with my friend from California, Chairman Reed Aguilar.
Thank you, Clark and Leader Jeffries, for their continued leadership of House Democrats who have been very clear what side we're on. Leader Jeffries has been consistent in saying we will always stand up for the American people. They are asking us to fight back against this slashing attempt to gut Medicaid, cut Social Security, eliminate the Department of Education, all so the billionaire class can pay less in taxes. This is a fight we're having today and tomorrow and next week and as long as we were here in Congress. Our constituents are worried about how they're going to pay the bills, how they're going to buy a home, how they're going to send their kids to college. They are seeing the prices go up and these Republican policies tank the stock market. They're not following the Beltway news of who's up and who's down, but they are very attuned to the Republican recession and that could cost them their health care and their job. And they know when their elected officials are willing to fight for them. They know when someone is looking out for their own pocketbook or they're looking out for their own self-interest. That's why House Democrats will continue this fight and to continue everything we have done to center this around the American people. And we'll continue to do that under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries.
Mr. Leader.
Mr. Leader.
Has Senator Schumer, in your mind, acquiesced to Trump?
That's a question that is best addressed by the Senate. The vote hasn't taken place yet, and the House Democratic position is very clear. We strongly oppose any efforts to cut the health care of the American people, veterans benefits, and nutritional assistance, all of which are in the partisan Republican bill. We're going to continue to support Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and public schools, while Donald Trump and House Republicans try to take a chainsaw to these important priorities of the American people. We'll see what happens over in the Senate. There are still undecided and undeclared senators, and we anxiously await that.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Mr. Leader, first, can you clarify, are you encouraging your Senate colleagues to vote no on cloture, not just the bill itself?
We've been very clear. We strongly oppose the reckless Republican spending bill. Period. Full stop. Our position, repeatedly articulated this week, speaks for itself.
Mr. Leader, Senator Schumer talked to you before making his announcement. Can you tell us what he told you and what you said back to him?
He and I have had repeated and private conversations throughout the week, and those conversations will remain.
Leader Jeffries.
Have you lost confidence?
The wealthiest country in the history of the world. And Republicans have done nothing
On the
about
Senate
it.
side, they have a much more difficult path than you do on the House side. You guys could all remain united and the bill would still pass. If Democrats stay united against this, the government will shut down. What would you have expected Schumer to do?
This is not about one individual. This is about the American people. That's our view. Right? We made a decision based on the four corners of this bill. It will hurt everyday Americans, in our opinion, as Donald Trump and House Republicans have been doing for the last several weeks. Donald Trump promised to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. In fact, to lower grocery costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflation is going up. You know what's going down? The stock market is going down. Consumer confidence is going down. Consumer spending is going down. Republicans are crashing the economy in real time and driving America toward a recession. That's what we're concerned about. Not individuals,
That says to me,
the American people.
But is a shutdown worse? Is a shutdown worse than the bill?
The problem here is that's a false question. That's a false choice.
Schumer said it wasn't.
But this is the House position, that we need to go back to the negotiating table, which they walked away from. They walked away from it. And it's why you see both the Senate and the House chairs of appropriations saying 30 days. Give us 30 days to put the American people's voices back in this process. And when you're in the minority, you only have a few real points where you can use the powers that you have, the procedural moves that you have, to do the right thing by people who are terrified of where this country is going and where it's going to leave them and their families. So back to the negotiating table? Why is that some wild-eyed idea? It's like, let's come back together. If you're serious about cutting costs, protecting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, our schools, our veterans, come back to the table and work that out. The choice of having a shutdown when you're the party that runs everything is preposterous. It's just outrageous. They're even trying to say somehow that's the choice the Democrats are making. You run everything, but what you're trying to do is scam the American people out of their money and the services they pay for and they deserve. So, let's be realistic about what this fight is. We are simply saying, go back to the negotiating table. It's not about a shutdown versus a particular spending bill. It's, are we going to center around the American people and do what's right for them, or are we not?
for some reason, these people are trying to convince all of us, the American
all these, fun DC words, cloture, continuing resolution. What the American people need to know is that House Democrats are willing to work in a bipartisan way to keep government open for 30 days. That's all we want. That's our solution. It's not perfect. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but it centers the debate around the American people. It pauses what would be a reckless shutdown at the hands of Donald Trump. And it says, let's keep negotiating. Let's work on our funding bills. Let's give Rosa DeLauro and Tom Cole Patty Murray and Susan Collins some time to work on these spending bills, and then let's come back and let's see what the next couple of weeks hold. But we have to pass funding bills in a bipartisan process. It's a 3-page bill probably. It's not 99 pages that cuts the veterans' care that they deserve. It's a couple-page bill. We could put that on the floor. We can get that done. We can pass it. We can go home. We can talk to our constituents about this, and we can center this around the American people.
So, it sounds like this message was sent to the Senate, received, and then they decided yesterday, for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have the votes, Leader Schumer decided to walk away from that and go with the GOP plan. There are some colleagues of yours here in the House that feel betrayed. Is that what you're feeling right now?
Vote hasn't happened. There are undecided and undeclared Democratic senators who are evaluating what is the right thing to do for the American people. We've made that decision as House Democrats, and we're going to stick by that decision because we believe we are on the side of the American people.
Mr. Leader, House Democrats. Leader Jeffries, when it comes to FY26, looking to September, some Democrats have expressed concerns that seeing how the process had played out this week will set a tone for the upcoming fiscal year. Do you share those concerns, and what have you learned from this process for the next fiscal year?
Our general view is that we do not want to shut down the government, but we are not afraid of a government funding showdown. And we will win that showdown because we stand on the side of the American people.
What's the difference between a shutdown and a showdown, Gio?
Next question.
Follow up, though. You talk about the problem with saying, oh, this isn't just one individual, but still, doesn't this still send a message to Americans, the fact that it's the leader of the Senate, Democrats, who has already said he's making this decision, and you already have 66 of your House colleagues sending him a letter saying that they're not approving of this.
When I travel the country, the American people are concerned about if their kids get sick, can they go see a doctor? And we have a problem with the fact that Republicans are cutting health care in this partisan spending bill. There are veterans in this country who want to know that after serving this country, sacrificing, putting their lives on the line, that their country will be there for them in the way that they were there for America. There are mothers and fathers who are struggling to make ends meet. They are working hard. They're playing by the rules. But they're not sure whether they can put food on the table day to day, week to week, month to month. And the Republicans in this bill, just like they're cutting veterans' benefits, are cutting nutritional assistance to children and families. That's what we have a problem with. The Republicans are hurting the American people. That's why House Democrats are strongly opposed to this bill.
Leader Jeffries, Senator Chuck Schumer is from your state. He clearly has a different view of this than you. He is not saying let's go back to the negotiating table. He's saying let's take this vote. So have you lost confidence in him, the fact that you guys see this so differently?
Next question.
Leader Jeffries, I want to go back to my colleague's question. Can you clarify what you mean by showdown versus shutdown? That you guys are ready for a showdown, but not a shutdown. What is a showdown versus what may occur if the Senate takes this vote?
Listen, it speaks for itself. Let's be clear about the party who shuts down the government. It's not Democrats, it's Republicans, repeatedly. The 1990s,
worse than the last version.
House Republicans led by Newt Gingrich shut down the government twice because they wanted to cut Medicaid. Democrats rejected that position, and Republicans were forced to reopen the government and engage in an unconditional surrender. In 2013, my first year in the Congress, House Republicans, the Tea Party, Ted Cruz, they shut the government down 14 days in October because they wanted President Obama and Democrats to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
wrong with these folks. I think they're trying to.
They told us my way and the highway. We showed them the highway. And after 14 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender, and the Affordable Care Act is alive and well. And all of us were here. And in various forms of leadership during the 35-day government shutdown. It started in December of 2018, and it carried all the way into February or so
on behalf of the American people.
of
So-called Save Act,
2019.
a version that's worse than the prior version.
In that shutdown,
is
Donald
going
Trump
down. It's not going to pass.
closed the government
If it's
because
passed by the House,
he wanted
dead on
Democrats
arrival in the Senate. They're
to divert
wasting time.
taxpayer dollars, billions
Why
of
are
taxpayer
Republicans trying to do
dollars,
everything but make life better for the American people?
to pay for his medieval border wall that he promised Mexico would pay for. And he wanted to take American taxpayer dollars away from defense and national security. We told him to get lost.
Federalism in America.
And after 35 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender. What I'm saying speaks for itself. Check the history. We're on the right side of the American people. We don't want to shut the government down. They do. But we're not afraid of a showdown.
Mr. Leader, House Democrats have been united in their opposition against this continuing resolution, but that's a different position that we're hearing from Senate leadership. How does this not play into those accusations that Democrats are not unified?
House Democrats remain very unified. Let me yield to Kathleen Clark and Pete Aguilar.
But what about the party itself? I mean,
You asked the question.
we're hearing two different messages.
You asked the question. Can we answer it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think what we've seen time and time again is that we have come together. Listen, we're here on behalf of House Democrats, and we know who we have to fight for. We are in a crisis that has been happening in the last 7 weeks. We have seen Doge and Elon Musk going into our most secure data banks, rifling through people's healthcare information, social security information. We don't know what they're doing with that. We are taking them to court, over 100 lawsuits, and we are winning on behalf of the American people. But it doesn't stop their chainsaws. They're going right through everything the American people need to be successful. They're telling us they'll eliminate Social Security. They've already voted in the House to devastate Medicaid. You cannot take Medicaid away and not close nursing homes in this country. Take away health insurance from children. Close rural hospitals first, but other hospitals will follow. And you can't do that to Medicaid and not soar the cost of health insurance and health care in this country for everybody else and put an undue pressure on Medicare. So what we're saying is, you have to choose a side right now. We have to fight for our country, for our national security, and most of all, for the security of families at home. And we are united in that. And this parlor game here about, most American people, they can't name us. They don't know who Chuck Schumer is. But they do know what this administration and Elon Musk and the GOP are planning for them. And it's why you're seeing this uproar in town halls. It's why you are seeing in very, very Republican parts of this country veterans expressing their frustration and their outrage that they've cut 7,000 of them from jobs, that they have a spokesperson from the White House who says, well, those veterans weren't fit to work.
But your party's not on the same page here. Schumer's arguing that a shutdown would be more catastrophic because the White House would choose which federal agencies remain open and would thus give more power to DOJ.
Our party is united on this front, that we will stand with the American people. And we are having a disagreement here. But this is what unites us, is that we're going to continue to work for those people who work for a living, who are looking at their budgets, their family budgets. They're not sure they're going to make it,
and they're not sure their place in the future. And as they see their retirement, their Social Security, all being threatened, when they can't afford childcare and eggs and the basics, and they certainly don't know how their kids or they can afford to buy a house, those are the issues that we are saying, come back to the table and work on.
The privilege of presiding over the House Democratic Caucus Retreat with Whip Clark, Leader Jeffries, and Vice Chair Liu over the last few days. And to a person, House Democrats knew the task at hand. We knew we had to talk about the 2024 election, and we did. We knew we had to talk about how we defend against Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and House Republicans coming after their health care. We knew we have to talk about an affirmative agenda to lower the costs that people face. We did that. And to a person, House Democrats understand what is in front of us. We know that this is about the American people. Now, I don't expect our Senate colleagues to lose a lot of sleep or to think a lot about how House Democrats feel. What we're asking them to keep in mind is, how do the American people feel? How will the American people feel when Donald Trump and Elon Musk have more authority and ability to comb through agencies, to fire veterans, to cut benefits? How will the American people feel, and is that a vote you're comfortable owning? I think that's the question that the Senate has. We are comfortable as House Democrats that we are standing for the American people in this moment against this Republican assault on working class families.
Leader Jeffries.
You have dodged multiple times questions about whether you have confidence right now in Chuck Schumer. Can I just, to clarify here, none of you are willing to say at this point that you have confidence in Chuck Schumer as leader?
You keep engaging in these parlor games because you want to take the focus off the American people. What we're saying is we look forward to continuing to work with our Senate colleagues, all of them, in opposition to the extremism that's being unleashed on the American people. But the focus right now is on everyday Americans, on children, on families, on veterans, on the people that we are fighting for, who Donald Trump and House Republicans are intentionally trying to hurt in a moment where Donald Trump and that whole crew, they are tanking the economy in real time, failing to deliver on their promises to make life better for the American people, and in fact, things are getting worse. That's why Donald Trump's poll numbers aren't going up, they're going down, just like the stock market.
We're asking that because real people are protesting. There are 11 people that were arrested today outside of Schumer's office. That's the only, we're not playing any tricks. We're just asking.
I travel the country. I represent a district in Brooklyn. I'll be in that district in a few days. I'll be in church on Sunday. I'll be having events on Monday. We have a Medicaid Day of Action on Tuesday. I look forward to reporting back to all of you when I've had conversations with those very everyday Americans that you're talking about. That Pete's privileged to represent in the Inland Empire, that Catherine's privileged to represent in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that I'm privileged to represent in Brooklyn. But I know what they say to me about what matters to them. The fact that they have been struggling to get ahead in an America that's the wealthiest country in the history of the world is not acceptable. That far too many people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. Can't get ahead and can barely get by. That's not acceptable.
In the United States of America is very real.
And that's why House Democrats are taking a stand.
Republicans
Thank you.
have failed to lower the House.
Thank you.
And as a result of the Trump tariff, costs are going up by thousands
All you had to
of
do is say
dollars
yes.
per year.
All you had to do is say yes. You say, I have complete faith in Leader Schumer.
Driving
You
down
didn't
the
have to say that.
high cost.
We'll get on the meeting.
Ensuring that that we have immigration enforcement policies that are fair, just,
Look, I mean,
Yeah, it's playing in 3 hours. 5 o'clock.
I mean, well, Rosen just came out against it. I don't think, because like, you still got, he's the one that are silent. You got Duckworth,
You think like Alaska,
She said she's a hell no on cloture.
Oh.
Exactly, is what I saw.
So
because when somebody literally, she said hell no, then somebody asked, tweeted at her, does that mean hell no on cloture? And she's like, hell no on cloture.
All right then. So that's so that means
Warner gave my favorite answer. I'm a preacher, so I can't say how I say it.
I was the one who
well, nice job.
He was just like, that is, so now that means we got Cortez Masto is still unstated, King is unstated, Shaheen is unstated, Hassan is unstated. They're running out of people. Peters, Schumer's running out of people.
I mean, I think we're honestly, I think there's a decent chance. I don't know how.
Full stop.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. As these negotiations are happening, the Homeland Security Committee will hold an oversight hearing tomorrow where they'll hear from the heads of ICE, CBP, and USCIS. What do you think the heads of these agencies need to say to the American people to, I guess, communicate that they understand the gravity of your demands, the gravity of the moment? You all say that ICE needs to be reined in. You have very, very obvious concerns about what's happening in terms of the president's immigration policies. What do you need to hear from some of his administration officials tomorrow at this hearing to let you know that your message is getting through, at least for the administration?
Donald Trump and the administration promised that their immigration enforcement policies were going to target violent felons. They lied to the American people. The Trump administration.
Good afternoon, everyone. My honor to be joined by Whip Catherine Clark, our caucus chair Pete Aguilar, one of our co-chairs of the Steering and Policy Committee, Nanette Barragan, vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Ted Lieu, five-term and under Representative Stephen Horsford, and of course the top Democrat on the Rules Committee, ranking member Jim McGovern from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is well represented to my right.
Wicked brutality.
That would be correct.
In some cases, killed them.
We're on day 8 of the Republican health care crisis.
And Alex Preddy.
Crisis that has been visited upon the American people for months and is causing great devastation in working class America, rural America, suburban America, small town America, the heartland of America, urban America, and black and brown communities all throughout America. House Democrats are here at the Capitol on duty and ready to reopen the government and enact a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, while at the same time addresses the Republican health care crisis that is devastating the American people and is causing premiums, co-pays, and deductibles to go up for tens of millions of Americans because of the Republican refusal
Who has committed a crime
to extend the Affordable Care Act tax payments. We're asking everyday Americans from all across the country to share your story about the premium increases that you are experiencing
dramatic changes that need to occur
with your member of Congress, with your United States Senator, and certainly with any of us. If you've received a letter, or when you receive a letter in the next few weeks,
about getting ICE under control,
we want you to reach out to us and share that letter with us. You can do it at democraticleader.house.gov/share your story. That's democraticleader.house.gov/share your story. We are fighting
and the survivors
for
in
you.
particular are seeking.
We know that because of the Republican healthcare crisis and their refusal to address the Affordable Care Act tax credits that are on the brink of expiring,
Continue to take the lead.
that millions of Americans are about to see their health care costs double, triple, or quadruple.
Women's Caucus.
And when you get that letter
Ledger Fernandez, who has worked
in the mail,
with the
share
Epstein
it
survivors throughout
with us.
this Congress, and will
You can share it with us, as I indicated, and you can include a hashtag, my premium went up. My premium went up. And it's going up because of the continued Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. My honor to yield to our Democratic whip, Catherine Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader. We are so grateful for your leadership and your vision at this point of healthcare crisis, and I'm proud to be here with these representatives in leadership of our caucus. Here's the terrible thing about the position that the Republicans have backed themselves into with healthcare. It hurts everyone. And this isn't about red states or blue states. These premium hikes, these cuts, are going to make healthcare more expensive and harder to obtain for every American. We had a hearing today in the Capitol, and we were joined by a 29-year-old woman, Mariah Plant from West Virginia. And she told us about her family's struggle. She's the full-time caretaker for her brother Matt, who suffers a lot of disabilities and needs to be home and be on Medicaid. And without that support, she doesn't know how she would be able to provide for her brother. She also runs a small business and receives a tax credit so that she can afford health insurance under the ACA. So she is looking at potentially a cut to Medicaid that jeopardizes her ability to care for her loved one and her family. And in the immediate future, a steep rise in premiums and no ability for her to make that up. Her budget simply doesn't stretch that far. Like most Americans, she doesn't have that extra hundreds of dollars lying around a month to be able to afford health care. And that was the story from West Virginia. And as I look in my district, as premium notices are coming out, a couple in Massachusetts that makes $88,000 a year is looking at having their premium doubled. If we go to Speaker Johnson's hometown of Benton, Louisiana, that same couple making $88,000 will see a tripling of their premium, 3 times. That could be around $23,000 a year for that couple to pay. People can't afford that. 60% of families in this country cannot meet the basics, cannot afford the basics for their family. And these sort of dramatic jumps in premiums are what is going to pull them under. So here we are, and we implore the Republican Party, go talk to your neighbors and hear their anxieties about what's happening to their health care, what's happening in your shutdown you're imposing on them, and get on a plane and come back to Washington and get to work in reopening this government and protecting health care and the American worker. And with that, I am proud to yield to the chairman of our caucus, Pete Aguilar.
State troopers don't wear masks.
Thank you, Whip Clark, and thank you, Leader Jeffries, for convening us here, for your strength. asking House Democrats to be here, to be present, to be here at work. This is day 8 of the Republican-led shutdown. It's the second week that House Republicans have refused to call us back to the House, the last session day being, I believe, September 19th. Rather than tackling the most pressing issues facing our nation, including the rising costs of health care, Republicans are running from their responsibilities. By failing to negotiate with Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, Republicans are guaranteeing that they are exacerbating this health care crisis. Take, for example, Iowa's 1st Congressional District, represented by Congresswoman Marianne Miller Meeks. This, by the way, is the same member who said she'll hold town halls when hell freezes over just this week. A 60-year-old couple earning $82,000 a year will see their annual premiums rise by 200%, $13,000 a year. For another example, Republican Congressman Gabe Evans, Colorado District, a family of 4, earning just $64,000 a year, will see their premiums increase 195%, or $2,500 a year. Think about that. Americans are already struggling with the affordability crisis, and they are being jammed with this health care crisis, all at the hands of Speaker Johnson and his Republican colleagues. And they're lying, claiming that they're the ones working around the clock to fix this health care, to help fix health care. If that's true, where are they? Where are they? The Democrats are here trying to solve this crisis that they created with their big, ugly bill. The American people are smart enough to know that who is responsible for their health care costs going up. I hope that Republicans will wake up, that they'll do the right thing, and that they'll work with us to keep health care costs down. Turn it back over to Leader Jeffries.
Literally,
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. We've also been joined by Susan Del Bene, the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Every single state house seat, more than
Thank you so much. As you pointed out, medical premiums are soon set to rise dramatically, yet Obamacare requires COVID-era funding just to keep healthcare costs down. Doesn't this prove Obamacare was ultimately a failed policy fix for healthcare? And how can Democrats be trusted to fix healthcare when Obamacare was ultimately the solution here?
The overwhelming majority of the American people, including Republicans, support the Affordable Care Act because it's a vital part of providing health insurance coverage to working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. Republicans are peddling a lie that the current structure of the Affordable Care Act relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has nothing to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. The Affordable Care Act tax credits were put into place as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. That's what we're talking about. Lowering the cost for hard-working American taxpayers at a moment when the Republican health care crisis is skyrocketing the cost of living related to premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. And by the way, we have a cost of living crisis in the United States of America, and Republican policies are making worse. Donald Trump and the Republicans spent all last year promising to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, and the American people know it. Costs are going up. Inflation is going up. The Trump tariffs are adding thousands of dollars a year in additional expenses at a moment when everyday Americans are already struggling to make ends meet. And now Republicans have shut down the government rather than extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits to try to make health insurance more affordable, which is why Democrats are in this fight on behalf of the American people.
It's over for these extremists.
Leader Jeffries, what do you make of Speaker Johnson canceling House sessions this week, and when will you call for the House? When do you think he'll call for the House?
House Democrats were here last week. House Democrats are here this week. House Democrats will be here next week. House Republicans are on vacation right now. That's extraordinary. They canceled votes last week. House Republicans have canceled votes this week.
It's over for these people.
We haven't been in session
Apparently, they're the only ones.
since September 19th. And on that day, Republicans got out of town before sundown, never to be seen again. As we approach the government shutdown and are now in day 8 of the Trump Republican shutdown. And these extremists don't even want to show up to work when they're requiring hardworking federal employees to show up to work without pay because of the Republican shutdown.
Likely gone as well.
And so we've repeatedly made clear we will sit down as Democrats anytime, any place, anywhere
on the issues that matter
with anyone,
drive down the high cost of living, to fix
our Republican colleagues, either here in the Congress or go back to the Oval Office to reopen the government, to enter into a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people and that addresses the Republican health care crisis. I don't know if anyone else wanted to add.
And this version is worse than the last version.
Republicans love to advocate for more work requirements for poor people, people on SNAP, people on Medicaid. Well, I got an idea. Let's have a work requirement for Republicans to show up to Congress and do your goddamn job. I mean, millions of people are about to lose their health care. This is a serious crisis we're in, and we can avoid it. We can avoid people losing their health care. We can keep the government open. They need to show up.
This moment in time,
Leader.
we want DHS and
Well, thank you, Mr. Leader. Yesterday you said that 1-year extension on the ACA subsidies was a non-starter. James Shaheen said that, told me that red line was not helpful to the conversations that she's having in the Senate with her colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Leader Schumer said this morning that he didn't want to negotiate in public and declined to go as far as you did yesterday. Are you still consistent with red line being no to a 1-year extension, or kind of where are you at today on that?
Yes, if anything is presented to us, of course the caucus will consider it in good faith. But at the moment, here's where we stand.
and we're waiting
Republicans
a direct response.
enacted massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors as part of the One Big Ugly Bill. And they made those tax breaks permanent,
Ready to enthusiastically
while at the same time ripping Medicaid away from 14 million Americans and stealing food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans.
If it's squeezed
And
by
then,
the House, it's dead on arrival in the Senate.
are we
wasting
to
time.
take the position at this moment in time, in the midst of a Republican health care crisis, that we can't provide stability and certainty to working class Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act tax credits? That's an unreasonable position for anyone in Congress to take at this moment in time, relative to what Republicans have done
to embrace federalism.
in ripping health care away from tens of millions of Americans. Our position that has been articulated in a bill that was introduced by Senator Patty Murray and Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro is a permanent extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits to match the permanent extension that Republicans on their own saw fit to do for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected as part of the Republican continuing effort to subsidize the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. Now, at the end of the day,
Left vacant by
the
government.
caucus, in good faith, will evaluate anything presented from the Senate. But, in our view, as it relates to the Affordable Care Act tax credits and any other effort to address the Republican health care crisis, it has to be meaningful. It has to be meaningful
About 3 core issues.
in terms of making a difference in the lives of the American people.
Do you maintain that there's no daylight between you and Senate Democrats?
Yes.
Drive down the high cost of living. America is too
Thanks, Mr. Leader.
right now.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion about whether there should be vote on paying the military during this shutdown. I know some of your members penned a letter to the Speaker asking him to call the House back on it. Today the Speaker said unlikely because basically the House had the opportunity to have that vote. Do you believe there should be a standalone vote on military pay?
I believe that we should pay our men and women in uniform, and I support the effort of our members to make sure that that takes place. And shame on the Republicans for remaining on vacation and even refusing to pay our troops because of their continued effort to gut the health care of the American people, which they're putting above even the men and women of the U.S. military. I'm a captain. Okay, you want to address this? Go ahead.
In that one big ugly bill.
Having served on active duty in the U.S. military, it is insane not to pay our troops. Some of them are in high-risk missions, and you want them thinking about whether they can get paid, whether they can care for their family. You don't want them focused on that. You want them focused on our national security. And this is going to affect our national security. House Democrats are here, Republicans are on vacation. They need to come back and work, and we need to pay our troops.
I would just add that Mike Johnson sort of doubled down on this and showed their callous disregard for the Americans involved in their shutdown. Because what he said was a vote to give funding to our troops so they don't miss a paycheck while serving our country would be a show vote. A show vote? I can't imagine anything more disrespectful. And it's just insight into how they are viewing this. You take the deal we are offering to the American people. And the Republican deal is we take your health care away in order to pay for permanent tax breaks for the very wealthiest people. And if you don't take that deal, we're going to shut down government. And we're not even going to come to work while we are telling hardworking Americans who serve the public, you've got to go to work and not get paid. But us, we'll get paid and not show up for work. That's how little regard they have for the American people and what they're going through. And this entire system and this entire shutdown is based on their allegiance to the very wealthy. And American families are not making it. And every day they make life harder and more expensive. And you can see it in the way they toss aside payment to the troops as a political stunt, some sort of showboat. This is something that we have come together in a bipartisan way at the beginning of every shutdown and voted to do. That is what we do when we are in these terrible situations of a government shutdown. And the fact that they don't do it tells you exactly how they regard our troops and the American people.
Mr. Leader, will you call Speaker Johnson and implore him to swear in Adelita Grijalva?
We have made clear privately and publicly that Representative Adelita Grijalva should be sworn in immediately, without delay. Mike Johnson swore in 2 Republican members of Congress immediately after their April 1st special elections were concluded during a pro forma session when no one else was even around. And that was done by Republicans because they wanted to jam their one big ugly bill down the throats of the American people so they could rip away health care, steal food from children, and enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. Republicans acted with great urgency to swear in 2 right-wing members of Congress to do in the American people in order to reward the wealthy, the well-off, and well-connected. But now, at this moment, Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, who won by much wider margins than those 2 Republican members, there is no dispute or controversy relative to her election. And so many of us are asking the question, why the delay, Mike? What's the delay with respect to Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva? Does it have anything to do with Republicans' continuing effort to hide the Epstein files from the American people? Inquiring minds want to know.
than have occurred in the last few decades
Third row.
combined.
You.
Oh, that is, I'm sorry.
I got that right. Third row.
This is actually for Whip Clark, if you could address this, and Leader Jeffries, feel free to as well. Just curious what steps you're taking right now to make sure that back pay for federal furloughed workers is guaranteed under the 2019 law.
We have already taken the steps necessary because, as you pointed out, that is the law that Speaker Johnson voted for. So we know what the law says, and we know that we cannot continue to stand by when the President of the United States says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to continue to make an already painful shutdown even more painful. You know, sort of on the theory that, you know, until morale improves, the beatings will continue on the American people. And it's all about harming workers. So, and now he's saying, well, maybe it won't withhold the pay for people who are working without pay for everybody, just those non-deserving workers. Mike Johnson knows the law. Donald Trump knows the law. The workers deserve pay, and that's full stop. That is something we voted on in the first Trump administration. He signed that law. So this isn't up for some sort of legal interpretation. That is the law. But that seems to be very out of vote with this version of the Republican Party. But the law is clear, and we are going to stand here for workers who are being put in the position of having to show up for their jobs and do their work without pay or be sent home and furloughed, and hope that the Republicans come back to Washington and end their shutdown and get people back to work.
And to ensuring that
Well,
we
give
have
Verigat an opportunity to respond to the
in this country
Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva
and humane
situation, and that, of course, the immediate past chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
Well, thank you. I want to echo the leader's remarks and say, look, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is at the largest it's been. We're going to add a new member. She was duly elected. She's ready to work. She's been showing up here. It's a real disservice, and I think a slap in the face to those constituents that voted for her, that she's not being sworn in to be able to do her work as an official member. And of course, we know that she is set to be the last signator on the discharge petition. So I continue to implore the Speaker to do the right thing. I believe he said yesterday he would get it done, and then they walked it back. We have a Latina from Arizona who's ready and able, and let's not disenfranchise those voters as they have to sit and wait until the Speaker thinks, this political game ends. We should all really call on him to swear her in immediately.
Thank you, Leader. A follow-up on a question that was asked before. We talk about how these subsidies are needed to keep premiums low, and I think there is a question in a lot of people's minds that if these subsidies are truly needed to keep those premiums at that level, does that signal that there are reforms needed to the ACA to lower premiums in general?
It's incredibly important to make sure that we extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for working-class Americans, middle-class Americans, and everyday Americans. People like Mariah Plant, who we heard from earlier today. She's a 29-year-old from a rural part of West Virginia, a state that Donald Trump won by 41 points.
It's not targeting violent felons.
Mariah
targeting American
is a small business owner who gets her health care
and law-abiding
through the Affordable Care Act, and that's made affordable by the tax credits.
Totally out of control.
Those tax credits expire.
And need to be reined in.
Healthcare will be unaffordable for Mariah. She'll have to pay thousands of dollars more per year.
To the American people,
and she's already dealing with the adverse implications of the Republican assault on the health care of the American people related to the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Why is that?
The administration also needs
Because Mariah is the sole full-time caregiver for her older brother, Matt.
including but not limited
And Matt
mandatory body
is legally blind,
judicial warrant requirement,
and Matt is someone
no masks,
who
an end to
is entirely nonverbal, and Matt is someone
demoralizing American
who
community,
requires full-time
no
care.
racial profiling,
And
no
because of
targeting,
Medicaid as it
sensitive
currently
locations
exists,
like schools, hospitals,
Matt is able to be cared for at home in a loving environment. But now that's
independent
threatened
investigations to ensure
by the Republican
that when
assault
ICE
on Medicaid.
officials break the law.
You know what's also threatened for Mariah and Matt? The fact that their rural hospital may close because of the Republican assault on the health care of the American people. And then on top of that,
House and Senate Democrats have clearly
Mariah may not even be able to go see a doctor herself
and clearly
because of the Republican refusal
to the White House
to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. That's why Democrats are in this fight.
changes that need to occur.
It's not a political
at the Department of
struggle,
Homeland
it's
Security
personal
before a funding bill
for the
moves
American
forward
people.
This Friday, and we're still waiting to hear back.
Just
from the
like
White
we're
House
telling Mariah's story, elevating it,
that these extremists aren't
as she
serious
did earlier today at our hearing,
about getting ICE under control.
so courageously and authentically on behalf of everyone else in West Virginia and throughout the country. We're asking the American people to share their stories with all of us about the hardship that you're facing as a result of the Republican healthcare crisis and the need for something to be done about it right
General and the
now.
survivors in particular.
I want to give Stephen Horsford an opportunity to say anything, and Susan Gilbert.
Robert Garcia and the
Thank you,
oversight.
Mr. Leader. I will just add, as a member of the Ways and Means Committee and Subcommittee on Healthcare, these enhanced premium tax credits, one, are supported by 78% of Americans, and they understand the impact of those tax credits to their ability to afford healthcare. And just like Republicans made a priority to pass massive tax breaks for the very wealthy, Democrats made it a priority to give tax relief to middle-class families so that they could afford health care. We're using the tax code to help middle-class families afford health care, not the ultra-rich get another tax break for a yacht or whatever else they're buying. This is a matter of life and death, and it's a matter of clear priority by the House Democratic Caucus, led by Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark and the rest of our leadership team. And it is personal, because not only are our constituents dealing with this issue, but members of Congress are dealing with these critical issues. And we will make sure that we continue to defend every person's right to health care. It is an economic imperative, and it's a human right.
But the continuing temper tantrum being thrown by Lindsey Graham.
You know what happens when more people have health care coverage? People are healthier and we save money.
Corruption taking place.
I think it's really important to think about the fact that when we have these tax credits in place, that actually saves us money. Cutting the tax credits means more and more people aren't going to have health care, more and more people going to the ER, more and more uncompensated care that others have to pick up the cost for, raising prices on everyone, not just folks on the exchange, raising prices on everyone. Our health care system is challenged. We see more rural hospitals, more services in hospitals closed, more folks, more staff being let go. It's a spiral. So not only because of the incredible stories like Mariah that the leader was just talking about, but also from a fiscal standpoint, it's the right thing to do. It helps our communities. More people have coverage. It's more fiscally responsible. And yet Republicans are still on vacation and have no plan on how to continue going forward.
I just want to say, look, I sit on Energy and Commerce. I sit on the committee that does everything on health care. And I can tell you, hearing after hearing after hearing, we are not hearing Republicans come up with legislation or bills that's going to bring down the cost of their health care. On the contrary, everything that's being done is raising cost. So the party in power right now, the Republican Party, who controls what the hearings are not having hearings on how to lower the cost of health care or premiums. Look, we want to make sure health care is accessible to everybody, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican or an independent in rural America, in small towns, in cities like mine. This is about health care. This is about getting everybody access to health care. And I can tell you that we do not have those hearings. The party in charge has not expressed an interest in committee on having hearings on how to bring the cost down. So Democrats are fighting to do just that.
We've given them legislative language.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. We've talked a lot about the countless Americans who are going to lose their paychecks in a prolonged shutdown. We've also seen lawmakers from both chambers and both sides of the aisle say that they will forfeit their checks to stand in solidarity with those Americans. Are you or any members of your leadership team planning on doing the same thing?
That's an individual decision that every member will have to make on November 1st. Hopefully, Republicans will actually get back to Washington well before that, do their job so we can sit down, reopen the government now, enact a spending agreement that makes life better for the American people now and addresses the Republican health care crisis now.
Have you heard from the White House at all since your meeting with the president? And do you think that he ultimately needs to engage in order to have the Republicans perhaps take up health care as well?
In the White House meeting that we had last week, I made clear to the president, with Johnson and Thune sitting right there, that the reason why Leader Schumer and I demanded this meeting is because at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen on the Republican side unless Donald Trump tells them to do it. The Republicans here in Congress have long ago abandoned the notion that they're part of a separate and co-equal branch of government. They don't see their jobs that way. They function like functionaries, like wholly owned subsidiaries of the Trump administration. And all they've done all year, these Republicans here in Capitol Hill, is to rubber stamp Donald Trump's extreme agenda. That's raising costs on the American people and ripping health care away from them at the same time. If we're going to get a resolution here, we need presidential leadership. That's what Donald Trump himself said 12 years ago in 2013. If a shutdown happens, the buck stops with the president. This is now the second time that the government has been shut down under Donald Trump, and he's in the Presidential Witness Protection Program. He's nowhere to be found. He's got time to be on the golf course, but apparently doesn't have time to sit down with Democrats in the House and the Senate
which none of us on the Democratic side of the House ever believed.
Thank you.
2-game series now.
Told you it was going to happen yesterday.
Go Mariners!
Okay.
You go that way.
Nobody within the
I was wondering where you were.
Republicans continue to be destroyed electorally. Literally, Democrats and 2025 haven't lost a single competitive election. Interest or capacity every single to reopen the government, enact a spending agreement that meets the needs of the American people, or address the health care crisis that Republicans have created. Zip zero on the other. And the health care crisis is growing in intensity and urgency all across the country. Was stunned. We now have visibility into 13 different states, including most recently Florida, Virginia, Maryland, and Georgia. 17 points. And all across those states, millions of Americans are going to experience dramatic increases in their health care premiums, co-pays, and deductibles,
But then I
as
was
is the
amazed
case
because I assumed that
with
that was
everyday
the high
Americans
watermark.
all across the country.
A 31-point overperformance.
In Florida, by
the
way
state
of
Senate
example,
district, in Texas, that's larger than
a
congressional districts
58-year-old
until this weekend.
in Panama City, Florida,
In Louisiana,
single on the
which
silver
just
plan,
happens to be
currently
the home
receives
state
ACA
of the
tax
Speaker of the
credits,
House and
pays
the
for health
Minority Leader.
insurance $140.80 a month. Because Republicans have decided to allow the Affordable Care Act tax credits to expire, that same individual who's currently paying $140.80
that Donald Trump
per month,
apparently won by
their costs will
13
go up
points
to $1,526 per month.
The
Republicans
Democratic
did that
wait for it,
because of
just
their
won
refusal
by 20
to extend the Affordable Care Act
points
tax credits.
in Louisiana.
In Florida, a 46-year-old with 3
the heart
children
of
in
Mike
Santa
Johnson
Rosa.
and Steve Scalise
We now know
territory.
this family, currently on the
That was
bronze
a
plan,
37
actually,
point
as a result of the tax
overperformance,
credits
if my
that they
math is correct.
receive,
This is stunning.
does not have to
It's over for
pay
these
any
institutions.
additional amount
And so the notion that in
to
the
receive
face of Republicans
their
being rejected
health insurance.
all across
But if the
America,
Affordable Care Act
and
tax
Democratic
credits
candidates
are allowed to
up and down the
expire,
ballot throughout the
that
country
same
being
family,
embraced, the notion that this
46-year-old with 3
Republicans are going to
children,
proceed with a my way
Santa
or the
Rosa,
highway
Florida,
approach
will have to pay
and act like they had the high ground
$2,360
on
per
any
month.
issue, they do not.
That is
It's
north
over
of
for these
$25,000 per year.
Apparently, they're the only
Unaffordable,
ones who haven't come to that
impossible, unsustainable, and it will result in that family having to go without the ability to see a doctor when their children get sick. The Republican health care crisis grows worse by the day.
Trump clearly wants to nationalize the
And
election
yet,
because he knows if there's a free and fair election,
Republicans
it's over.
remain on vacation for the
the
fourth
House is
consecutive
gone.
week.
Senate
Donald Trump is
majority
once again
likely
preparing
gone as well.
to fly out of the
These Republican
country.
extremists. Because the American
The East
people
wing of
see
the White House
as
is being
Democrats,
demolished
we're the only ones actually fighting
so that
hard
Donald Trump can construct
on the
a
issues that
ballroom
matter to drive down the high cost of living, to fix
where he
up
will
the
be
healthcare
celebrated
system,
like a
to
king.
clean up corruption and the mess
And at the same time,
that Donald
Trump
and Republican policies
is trying to
have
rob taxpayers of
Republicans have adopted
$230 million
voter suppression as an electoral
to continue to
strategy.
line his
That's
pocket.
what the so-called SAVE Act is all about.
And yet
And
Republicans
this
have
version is
zero
worse than the last
interest,
version.
none,
Because
in
this
addressing
version,
the healthcare
as I
crisis that they've
understand it,
created, which is
would
devastating
actually give
people all across the country.
DHS the power
It's now my honor to yield
to
to
get
the distinguished
voting
whip,
records
Catherine Clark.
from states.
Thank you so much,
Across
Mr.
the country.
Leader,
Why
and
would
good
these
afternoon, everyone. We
think
are so
that's a
grateful
good
to you
idea
for your courageous
that we as
leadership
Democrats are going to
and
accept
grateful
at this
that
moment
you
in time?
are safe and secure.
We want
Republicans
DHS
have
and
controlled
ICE
Washington
who have
for
been
275
viciously
days, and we are 22 days into
everyday
this
Americans
shutdown.
to have
And through
more
all the
data
chaos, there has been
about the American
one constant. One theme at the
outrageous.
heart
Something
of
is
their
really
budget
wrong with these
and their
folks. I think
shutdown
they're
and their
trying
health
to lose
care
elections.
crisis. They seek out and target
They're a disaster.
the
They
most
failed.
selfless and the least privileged
And so,
Americans. They always
only
go
path
after
forward,
those who have
given a list of
already
10 demands,
had to
those
sacrifice.
demands are completely
Americans
consistent with
working
the
a
values of
second
the
job
American people.
to keep their kids
And we're
fed.
waiting
Americans who have chosen to
direct
serve
response.
in uniform or as civil
Donald Trump, the
servants.
White House, and
Americans
Republicans
who
on
are
Capitol Hill.
caring
And then we can have
full-time
a debate,
for their loved ones.
which we
It's working parents on
ready
Medicaid.
to
It's sick children
enthusiastically
who need
embrace
home care. It's
on behalf of the
veterans who
American
rely
The so-called
on the
SAVE
Affordable
Act,
Care
a
Act.
version that's worse
Those
than the
are
prior
the
version,
people
is going
that
down. It's not going to
Republicans
pass.
expect to get by
If it
with
squeaks by
less.
the House,
It's
dead
never
on
the
arrival in Senate.
billionaires.
They're wasting
It's never
time.
corporations.
Again, why
It's
are
certainly never
Republicans trying to do
themselves.
everything but make
Because
life
what
better
does
for the
Donald
American
Trump expect for himself?
on
What do you see him talking
nationalizing
about
the
when you
election
turn on the news?
In the 250th
A luxury plane,
anniversary
a
of this great
gold-plated
country?
office, a new
Are they
ballroom,
unaware of the
and now
principle
a
of
literal
federalism
monument to
in
himself.
America?
All as 1 million children are about to be kicked off of Medicaid. Another million will see their family premiums double or even triple. And Republicans are complaining about the Peace Prize that Trump didn't get, about camera angles and escalators, acting like somehow they are the victims. While they victimize the most innocent and vulnerable people, hard-working Americans, Republicans choose to go on vacation. That's not an option for the American people. The bills come due, no matter how hard they work. So our message to the Republicans remained the same. Come to work. Come to D.C., sit down with us, negotiate, end this healthcare crisis, and end this shutdown. And now it is my great pleasure to yield to our caucus chairman, Pete Aguilar.
Thank you, Whip Clark. Thank you, Leader Jeffries. Before I talked about the shutdown in healthcare, I did want to touch on the terrifying threat that Leader Jeffries by someone convicted from January 6th. As a member of the January 6th committee, we deposed, we interviewed a number of individuals who were summoned here to the Capitol that day. And to see Donald Trump pardon 1,500 individuals, what did you think was going to happen? These are individuals who had violent criminality in their past, and we have seen that carry forward now. And this is what happens when you release violent felons. By the way, some of them in their past had issues as child molesters and crimes against children, and we're putting these people back across the country. Following the recent horrific acts of political violence on people of both parties, we should do everything in our power to lower the temperature and keep our communities safe. And that's why I was disturbed by Whip Emmer's comments, in particular when talking about individuals who went to rallies, essentially calling American supporters of the Democratic Party supporters of terrorism. That rhetoric at the highest levels in this building and across our government isn't just untrue, it's dangerous and poses a threat to our political leaders, and that needs to stop. On the shutdown, for more than a month, Republicans have been on vacation while hardworking families are left to ask, what's next for me? What's next for my family? How will we afford health care? How can we pay our bills? And it's unacceptable that Speaker Johnson has had us in session since they passed the One Big Ugly Law. 20 days, I think, since then. Over 100 days have lapsed in the calendar, and we have been in session about 20. This is shocking. Then it's unacceptable that, and the American people see this. They can't show up for work 20 days over 3.5 months and expect to get paid. They're using this time to hide from their responsibilities. Their responsibilities to carry, they have chosen to carry forward unpopular health care policies. Even when Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kevin Kiley, Beth Van Dyne have all said that Republicans should be in D.C. working. And even Leader Thune says it's time for House Republicans to consider coming back into session. The American people are smart. They know who will make their lives better. They know who is looking out for their costs and who wants to lower the costs that they face. And they know Republicans who control the White House, the House, and the Senate have the power to undo the damage that they've caused with this health care crisis. Democrats aren't giving up. If anything, we're more motivated and focused on our work ahead to protect Americans' health care. It's time for Speaker Johnson and House Republicans to join Democrats in finding a solution to reopen government and address this health care crisis that they've created. The American people are waiting. Leader Jeffries.
And they have zero credibility.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Catherine. Questions?
Republicans in the same way that they have
Has
zero
Speaker
credibility
Johnson
on every
reached out
other
to you
issue.
at all since the
Which is
January
why they
6th sort of
continue
made
to
a
be
threat to
routed
your life?
electorally.
No.
Including
Thank you, Mr. Leader. At this point, do you think a new CR is needed past that November 21st date? And if so, what would be an acceptable end date? And would it have to be paired with some type of vote on an ACA extension?
What we need to occur right now is what Democrats have maintained from the very beginning. At this point, we need to reopen the government. We need to enact a spending bill that actually meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being, particularly in terms of driving down the high cost of living, while at the same time decisively addressing the Republican health care crisis that grows graver by the day. Our position over the last several weeks has remained consistent. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care, address the urgency of the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. This is not a partisan issue. And that's why we've seen Democrats and now many Republicans, traditional conservatives and right-wing conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene, all acknowledge what Democrats have been saying for weeks, which is that the Congress needs to act to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits to prevent tens of millions of Americans from experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. Those increases will devastate the American people. It's unacceptable. And House Republicans need to cancel their vacations, get back into town, so we can do the business of the American people.
Have occurred in the
back.
last few decades.
Do you have a response to Trump refusing to meet with you and Leader Schumer until the shutdown's
One
over?
thing we can guarantee.
Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf course than he has in talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill to reopen the government, to enact a spending agreement that's bipartisan, and to address the Republican health care crisis. His behavior, unpresidential, unhinged, unpatriotic, un-American, throughout this process, speaks for itself
Notwithstanding
and makes clear that Republicans shut the government down
the affordability
and have had
crisis in
zero
America
interest
is very
in opening it
real.
up. Why?
It is
Because
a clear
they'd rather
and present
inflict this
danger
kind of
to the
pain
economic well-being
on hardworking federal
of
civil
working
servants
class
and the American
Americans,
people
middle-class Americans, and
than provide health
everyday
care that's
Americans.
affordable
Donald
to everyday
Trump and
Americans,
Republicans
working class
have failed
Americans,
the country
and middle class Americans.
when it comes to the
Catherine
economy.
Pete?
Republicans promised
Michael.
that they were going
Going
to lower
back
the
to
high
the
cost
CR
of living
conversation,
on day one.
some Senate Republicans,
of
including
Donald
Leader
Trump's
Thune, have
presidency.
said the longer the shutdown
But
goes
costs
on,
haven't
the
gone
higher
down in the
the
United States
likelihood
of
that a
America.
full-year CR would
Costs
be
have gone up.
necessary.
Under failed
What are your
Republican
thoughts on
policy.
that conversation kind of intensifying
Housing
in the
costs are
Senate?
out of
And maybe
control.
Chair Aguilar as an
Grocery
appropriator.
costs
I know
are out of control.
appropriators
Healthcare
hate those
costs
words, full-year
are
CR,
out of
so I'm
control.
hoping you can explain to the
Utility
American people
bills
why
are
that's
out of
something that
control.
probably most
And
Democrats would
childcare costs
oppose in this situation.
Let me let Chairman Aguilar and Whip
Affordability
Clark respond, and then I'll
crisis in the
address the
United
question
States
as well.
of America is very real.
Well, just a reminder,
Republicans have
Whip
failed
Clark
to
is
lower
an
the high cost of
appropriator on leave, by the
And as a
way,
result of the Trump
in her
tariffs,
leader capacity.
costs are
Look,
going
as
up by
the leader mentioned, none of
thousands
us
dollars per
want
year
a continuing resolution. We want
on everyday
government open. I want people to go to the
Democrats remain
Smithsonian's.
committed
I want park rangers to
down
be
the
able
high
to
cost of
work. All of
fixing
this
our broken
is
healthcare
so incredibly important, and it's why Democrats have been
ensuring that we
very
have
clear we
immigration
want government to open.
enforcement
But that
policies in this
takes
country
both
that are
parties.
fair,
That
just,
takes Democrats and Republicans. And what
and humane.
frustrated me is, as you heard before,
Republicans
Michael, in the
have failed
caucus
America
press conferences, is each time
affordability,
Republicans carried a bill
on
in
healthcare,
appropriations, they did
on
it in a
immigration
hyper-partisan environment. And what do I mean
And
by
they have
that?
failed
They
to
marked
make
to a number,
life
they used
better
numbers that Donald Trump
American
wanted, that they knew the Senate wasn't going to support, that they knew didn't have bipartisan support, and yet they carried forward. And Tom Cole, a well-meaning person, executed this strategy, knowing full well it was a waste of time. And what happened as a result? We wasted months when we could have been negotiating, when we could have been working to find common ground in a bipartisan way on actual funding bills. The deadline of September 30th has always been the deadline. It's always been the end of the fiscal year. It seems like House Republicans just maybe tuned in, week 2 of their vacation to figure this out. We knew this in April. We knew this in May and June, and it's just incredibly unfortunate that House Republicans wasted time when they could have been working in a bipartisan way. And our hope, our focus, our goal, we don't want a continuing resolution for 14 months. I know the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee just mentioned that. We want actual government open. We want actual funding bills. But we want those done in a bipartisan way. The American people want that. They want us to address this healthcare crisis. It seems like House Republicans and Senate Republicans are the only ones who haven't realized that yet.
Yeah, it is amazing to me that the new conversation is, well, what's the length of the next CR? Let's back up to where we are today. We are in the 22nd day of a shutdown that is completely avoidable. By coming to the table and talking about the American people, and that what they promised, what the Republicans promised, and the president promised on day one, we're going to help lower your costs. And everything has been made harder and more expensive. So come to the table. Why are you talking about the length of a CR? Come to the table and negotiate with us. End this health care crisis. Help the American people. And I repeat this every week, but 60% of households are not making it, unable to provide the basics. And so let's bring those voices in. And by refusing to even show up to do your job, the arrogance and the dismissal of what's happening in people's lives, how they feel when they know the threat to being able to provide for their families, being able to afford housing, groceries, the utility bill, and then this blow. I mean, how are people possibly supposed to be able to afford an increase of $2,000 in their monthly insurance premium? This is the issue we need to be talking about. And then we can work on making sure that we reopen government quickly. And the other, they are now trying to reimagine themselves as the champions of federal workers, of the champions of food programs and health care, when all they have done is take an axe to all of that since they came into office, and deliberately, their word, inflict trauma on people who serve the public. So come to the table, come back to work, and put the voice of American families who are struggling back into the work you do. Then we can come together and get government reopened quickly and get health care costs back under control for American families.
We're in the midst of a cost of living crisis here in this country. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to lower the cost of living on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Electricity prices through the roof. Housing costs up. Grocery costs up. Child care costs up. And now Republicans refuse to do anything to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which is going to result in tens of millions of people experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. Well, on this matter, it's out of control. It's a cost of living crisis, and it's a health care crisis at the same time. And yet Republicans continue to ignore it, refuse to deal with it. And on top of all of that, we are in a moment where millions of Americans are about to increase their experience with heightened food insecurity, with hunger, because of the one big ugly bill and the fact that Republicans enacted the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history. These are all quality of life issues that have to be dealt with right now. And yet Republicans want to talk about process and their my way or the highway approach, their take it or leave it approach, which is what they've been visiting on the American people this entire year in terms of their extremism. And it's all unacceptable. Just come back to work. Let's sit down. Let's negotiate a bipartisan agreement. Let's reopen the government. Let's address the high cost of living in the United States of America. Let's address the hunger that you're creating. And of course, let's address the Republican health care crisis. Thanks. We'll have to take a look at.
Given the rampant misconduct we're seeing among immigration agents, most recently on Canal Street yesterday in Chinatown, New York City, do you think eventually ICE should get the Doge treatment?
If in fact those privacy rights. We've all been very outspoken as it relates to the out-of-control behavior unleashed on law-abiding immigrant communities by mass agents hiding their identity and far too often violating the rule of law, often directed at people who are American citizens. Donald Trump and his sycophants. And it's all unacceptable. And it's one of the reasons why the American people have turned on Donald Trump and Republicans with respect to their extreme immigration policies. And their friends, we should be holding the Department of Homeland Security accountable for the overreach and the extremism that they're being subjected to in terms of what the American people are experiencing. And yet, we're seeing none of that accountability coming from Republicans. That's unfortunate, but Democrats will continue to make the case to the American people that this is all abnormal. So much of it is unlawful, and it's got to stop. So we can actually,
Mr. Jeffries, thank you. Good afternoon.
Restore
Can you or Ms.
affordable
Clark,
health care for
allude to
tens
this
of millions of
question
Americans
about
who are right now
using
facing
the healthcare
dramatically
subsidies and
increased
using the end of
health
government
care
funding
premiums.
as an inflection?
In some cases,
the idea that in the
seeing their
minority you don't
premiums
have many
increase by
opportunities
$1,000 or
to say, okay, here's
$2,000
what
per
we
month.
want, here's
That's
what we need.
unacceptable.
Can you talk about
Here in the
using
wealthiest
that?
country in
And
the
is there
history of the
concern
world.
about
And Senate Republicans have done nothing
pain
about
that's
it.
being inflicted on federal workers?
After House
here,
Democrats
because
partnering
like,
with
this is the
17
strategy that we
House
chose.
Republicans,
So our
sent
position
over
is not about strategy.
a month ago.
Mike Johnson and the Republicans
Straightforward
keep
extension
talking
of
about
affordable care
strategy.
tax credits.
What we're focused on as Democrats is making a difference in the lives of the American people. Because the American people deserve better than what they've gotten from Donald Trump and extreme MAGA Republicans, who haven't made their life better. They've made their life worse. Their life has become more expensive. And now, because of the Republican health care crisis, that includes the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers closing all across America, including possibly dozens in Alabama, as was announced earlier this week, and now because of their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits,
As it relates to the types of dramatic
tens of
reforms
millions of
or
Americans
DHS
are about
that
to
the American
experience
people are demanding,
dramatically
and we've
increased
heard
health care
nothing but
costs
crickets
that will medically bankrupt
on the
them
other side. That says
or
to me
prevent these Americans
that Republicans are
from being
preparing
able to go see a
shut down
doctor
the Coast Guard,
when they need
shut
one. These
down
are
FEMA,
real life
and shut down
consequences
TSA because
of
they'd rather
extreme
see that
Republican
outcome
policies.
than
That's what
actually
this moment is all about.
force ICE
And as Democrats, we're going to
and
continue
other
to
parts of
stand
DHS
with
to conduct themselves
hard-working
like every
federal
other law
employees
enforcement agency in
who've
the
been
country.
under
That's what
assault
we're asking for at
by
this
Donald
point.
Trump and his administration since
officers
January
don't wear
20th of
masks.
this year. Prior
County
to
sheriffs don't wear masks.
the start of the Trump
State
Republican
troopers don't wear
shutdown,
masks.
more
Why
than
are Republicans
200,000 federal employees had already been forced off the
ICE,
job
or CBP
by Donald
agents
Trump. That's before
on
the
streets
shutdown.
of America to visit brutality on American citizens.
It's unfortunate that
while
Trump
at the same
and the
time
Republicans have
targeting
chosen to use their own
law-abiding
shutdown to
immigrant
further
families.
hurt
It's also completely
the
and
American
totally
people.
unhinged,
That's why our
unacceptable,
position continues to
and
be
un-American. So
come to the table.
this is on Republicans.
Let's
right
reopen the government. Let's
In terms
enact a
of what
bipartisan
happens
spending agreement that makes life better for the American people.
now. The clock is
And let's
ticking.
address the health care crisis that's
We'll sit
devastating
down with
people
anyone, anytime, any place.
in working class
But our
America,
demands
in rural
for
America, in urban
dramatic
America, in small
ICE
town America,
reform
in the heartland of
are
America,
clear.
and in black and brown communities all
It's a
across
line in the
America.
sand that we've drawn on behalf of the Americans.
Yeah, let's rewind the tape a little bit here and talk about how we got here. Donald Trump promised the American people, I will love and cherish Medicaid. And if you remember, when they were going through their budget process, they took $800 billion, said was going to come out of a specific committee. And we said those are going to be cuts to Medicaid. What did we hear from our colleagues across the aisle? Where does it say Medicaid? Where does it say that? We're going to protect Medicaid. When they knew full well they were going after people's health insurance. We have been trying to meet with them, talk to them,
none of us on
use
the
the
Democratic side of the
appropriations
House ever
process to cut a fair
Because
deal.
the bottom
It's
line
this
is
theme that
Republicans
I've been
wouldn't even be
talking
in the
about.
majority in the House
That
right
why
now
do you
had
go
they not
after
stolen 3
the
seats from
American
the people of
people
North
who are
Carolina
struggling to get by?
mid-decade
Why is that the bargain? That we are going to pay
that
for
occurred
tax
in
cuts
2024.
for the
They
very
wouldn't even be in the
wealthiest of
majority right now.
Americans and
Yet they try to
corporations
convince everybody
with the hard-earned dollars
somehow
of the American
the
people
country was in the
who
midst
want and are
of a
entitled
MAGA
to be able to
takeover,
afford health insurance.
which nobody
And
with
what
any
have we
sense
seen
believes
since they're going to love and cherish
point.
Medicaid? Dramatic
Republicans
cuts, $1 trillion,
continue to be destroyed
15 million people at
electorally.
risk of losing health
Literally,
insurance,
Democrats
$500 billion
since January
out of
2025 haven't
Medicare,
lost
these
a
cuts to
single
the
competitive
ACA,
election.
taking away the tax credits
Every
that
single
keeps premiums
state house
affordable
seat,
for
more
people,
than 25,
and all for
that have
what?
been flipped
So they can
in this
make
country have been
permanent
flipped
tax
by
cuts for the very
Democrats.
wealthiest and
Zip
drive
zero
up
on the other side.
the deficit at the same time,
In fact, most
telling
recently,
hardworking Americans, not only going to be hard
everybody
today,
was stunned
it's going to be hard for your grandchildren
happened
into
in
the
Texas.
future to pay off an
district
economy that we are
Donald Trump
rigging against you.
had initially
That's the message
won
to the American people.
state Senate
And Democrats are saying,
by
by
17
rejecting
points.
their
And a Democrat
CR,
wins by
enough is enough.
14.
Enough
That was
is
a
enough. We
31
cannot
point
go
overperformance.
along with this
Shocking.
extreme agenda. And their
country.
choice was to
then I
cancel
was amazed
even
because
coming
I
to Congress
assumed that
leading
was the
up
high
to the
water mark.
date of the shutdown.
A
They have
31-point
chosen this
overperformance
shutdown,
in a
and they
state Senate district
continue
in Texas
to
that's
make
larger
it
than congressional
punitive to
until
federal
this weekend.
workers in a way that I've never seen
in
any
Louisiana, which
administration
just
do.
happens to be the
That
home
they are
state
choosing who
of the
they
Speaker
like,
of
who
the
they
House
don't. We have
and
always come together before any
Majority
shutdown,
Leader.
no matter which
Presumably,
party was,
ground
had
zero
policy disagreements over what,
the
and said
MAGA
we will come together in a bipartisan way
yet,
and pay our
in a
troops.
The White House just said in the
House
past
seat,
hour that it was Democrats
Just on
who
Saturday,
were essentially being punitive by saying,
Donald
let's,
Trump
let them cut some of those programs
won
and we'll
by
use this as
13
leverage.
points.
What's your response?
I would put that in the
November of
category of love and cherishing Medicaid and
Democratic
lowering your
candidate
costs on day one.
paid for it
It's an outrageous,
won
they have been attacking
by
federal workers.
24
Their goal
points
was to inflict trauma.
in Louisiana.
Whether it is firings,
heart of
proposing
Mike
that some
Johnson
people
and
will
Steve
not get the
Scalise
back pay
territory.
that they are entitled to get under
That was
federal
a
law in this shutdown,
37
making things as
point
difficult as possible.
Overperformance, if my math
I
is
mean,
correct.
the way they have treated workers, whether
stunning.
they're federal workers
It's
or
over for
hardworking
these
people in our community who are
so the
trying to
notion
provide for their
that in the
families
face
and
of
are struggling to
Republicans
do
being
that. It is
rejected
just a let
all
them eat
across
cake
America
moment. You
and
know, just
Democratic
you just fend
candidates
for
up and
yourselves
down the
because
ballot
we'll tell you who
throughout the
we're
country
working
being
for.
embraced,
Those who already
the
have
notion
great
that
wealth
this
and
week
power. Full stop.
Republicans were gonna
So they
proceed with a
they can
my way
say
or the
whatever they
highway
want.
approach
They can issue and
act like they
try
have the
and
high
spin the
ground
context.
on any
Federal workers
issue,
know
they
who's
do
on their
not.
side. And working people in
It's
this
over for
country
these
are
people.
watching what is happening and watching
Apparently
them
they're the
put
only
them
ones
last.
who haven't
You
come
get
to
in
that
line. Your tax credits that help you pay for insurance premiums, those expire. Those for the very wealthiest, we're making those permanent in the very same month, in the month of December. It is outrageous. And the fact that they aren't even showing up, you don't even
Donald
show
Trump
up
clearly wants to nationalize
to
the
do
election
your
because he knows that
job
there's a free and fair election.
is
It's over.
something that it is
Right? The
no
House is
wonder
gone.
that the
Senate
that the
majority
American
likely
people
gone as
are
well
showing up and 7
Republican
million
extremists.
strong at rallies
the
on
American people
Saturdays,
see, as
but also
Democrats,
showing
we're
up
the
in
only
poll
ones
after
actually
poll saying this
fighting
doesn't
hard
work for me.
on the issues
The
that
system
matter
was
to drive
already
down the
rigged
high cost of
against
living,
me,
to fix
and
our
now
broken
it's
healthcare
getting
system, and
worse
to clean
due
up
to your
corruption and the
policies.
mess
So they should
that
really
Donald
look
Trump
in the
and
mirror.
Republican policies
And if
have
they've
created.
decided that cutting
Republicans have
people's
adopted
health insurance
voter
in order
suppression
to
as
give
an
the wealthiest
electoral
people in this
strategy.
country a
That's
tax
what the
break
so-called
is a
SAVE Act
bad
is all
policy, we are here to
And this
meet with
version is
them
worse
and
than the
talk
last
about how
version.
we can
can undo this. Let's
this
put the
version,
people back into the
as I
proposition
understand it,
here and
would
end this
actually
shutdown.
give DHS
No,
the
right there.
power
Third row.
to
Mr.
get
Jeffries,
voting
what
records
advice are you offering
from
Illinois
states
Democrats right now who are
across the
considering
country.
redrawing their maps? And do you share any reservations about potentially diluting Democratic strongholds?
As Democrats are going as was the case this moment in California, it's my expectation that Illinois Democrats are going to carefully consider their options and make sure that they draw the fairest map possible for the people of that great state in the context of Donald Trump's efforts to gerrymander congressional maps all across the country, including most recently in North Carolina, because Republicans are running scared. They know that if the election were held today, they would lose the House decisively. And that's why they're trying to rig the midterm elections.
So are you supportive of
given a list of
candidates?
Same answer. Those demands are completely consistent with the values of the American people.
In about a week, House staffers will start to miss their first paycheck if the government shutdown continues to drag on. What kind of guidance have you given to offices or staff about this upcoming deadline?
Yeah, there's been ongoing discussions with our hardworking staff. These are great, patriotic Americans who are all in on public service, all in on serving the people that members of Congress are privileged to represent across the country, and we'll continue to provide them with a lot of information. The hope is that we get this shutdown resolved before the end of the month. We've been maintaining that position from the very beginning of the Trump-Republican shutdown. But Republicans have had they shut the government down. All the Republicans talk about every time they stand at this podium or appear on TV, from the speaker on down, all they talk about is the American people gave them unified government, complete control of government. We control government. This is what Republicans say. We have a mandate. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They shut the government down. They reinforce that point every time that talking point comes out of their mouth.
The election results.
And what Democrats are saying is that we want to find a bipartisan path forward, but that involves good faith negotiation on the other side of the aisle, so we can come to a common sense resolution in ways that are actually designed to make life better for the American people. We're fighting to lower the high cost of living. We're fighting to fix the healthcare system that Republicans have broken. And we're also fighting to clean up corruption in Washington, D.C., where we have an American president behaving like an organized crime boss, stealing taxpayer dollars in real time in front of everyone in plain sight. And the Republicans have nothing to say
right now. Donald Trump has made the affordability
about the emerging crime scene
here in the country
at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
To say it's a hoax, or that we're not talking about it anymore.
November 1st
the problem is
coming
Donald
up
Trump
quite
spends
soon,
all his time watching
more and more
state
Americans
TV.
will get those premium notifications.
As
What is
opposed
the
to
strat, or
actually
is there a
interacting
strategy
with everyday
change once
Americans
you hit that date and then beyond that
who
date
know
in terms of how
that the
Democrats are
affordability
viewing the
crisis is
shutdown,
very real.
how you're
So we're focused on
messaging,
the
and
economy.
what we can
We're
all
gonna
expect
continue to
going
focus
forward?
on fixing our broken
Our
healthcare
view
system
has been
in
very
an
clear from the
environment
beginning. One of the
Republicans
reasons why we
enacted
need
their
to
one
act
big ugly
decisively
bill
and
and
need
the
to act
largest
now
cut to
as a
Medicaid
Congress
in American history,
to
literally
address
ripping food
the Affordable Care Act tax
as
credit
well from
issue
the
is
mouths of
because
hungry children,
notices are going
seniors
out
and
to
veterans,
millions of people
taking
right now
healthcare
as we
away
speak
from more than
across
14
the
million
country,
people.
frightening them
Hospitals,
to
nursing
death
homes, and community-based
when they
health
see that
clinics
their
closing
premiums are about to
across
increase
America
in some
because of
instances
Republican
by more than
policies.
$1,000 or
And that one big
$2,000 a
ugly
month.
bill. And
And more than 90% of the people who receive Affordable Care Act tax credits make approximately $63,000 a year. Think about that. How can you possibly
All
afford
of this, of course, was done.
premium
in that one
increases
big ugly
of more than
bill to
$1,000
enact
or
dramatic
$2,000 a month?
tax breaks,
And as
big
open
tax
enrollment
breaks
starts on November
for
1st,
their billionaire donors, while at the same time
more
giving
and
ICE
more
a
Americans
$75
are going
billion
to realize
slush
the
fund.
urgent need for
So they can
Congress
unleash
to
brutality on
act
the American
decisively, as Democrats
So we're gonna
have been
continue to point
saying
out
for
the
weeks.
fact that Republicans
But
have created a
Republicans
healthcare
continue to
crisis.
bury their heads in the
And in
sand
part, they created that healthcare crisis
because they'd rather keep the
so that they
government
could give
closed
ICE a slush
than
fund
provide health care that's affordable to
go
working class
after
Americans.
violent felons, but to target
Thank you so
American
much.
citizens.
Can you just speak
in
to some of the
cases, kill
programs
them.
that Democrats want funding for in the $1.5 trillion
also
list of demands? We've heard things like
violently go
$13.4
after
million for
law-abiding
civic
immigrant
engagement in
families. All
Zimbabwe,
unacceptable.
$3.9 million for LGBTQ democracy grants in the Balkans, things like this. You guys say this about saving healthcare, but how do these pet projects fit in?
Yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about or what Republican extremists fed you those talking points. But the reality is, what we are doing is defending the health care of the American people. Yeah, we do want to restore the fact that the largest cut to Medicaid in American history has been visited upon the American people by Donald Trump and Republicans, even though they promised to love and cherish Medicaid. But instead of doing that, they cut about $1 trillion from Medicaid. And as a result of that fact, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing all across the country, including in Republican states like Georgia, like Alabama, and Republican states all across the country. And Republicans have visited the largest cut to Medicaid in American history on their own people. That's what we want to restore. We want to avoid the fact that because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill, what they did is to trigger the possibility of a $536 billion cut to Medicare, because Republicans have put a bullseye on Medicare and Social Security since those earned benefits were created. And yet we have a problem with the fact that Republicans want to devastate the Medicare of the American people. And why did they do that? Why did they cut Medicaid by almost $1 trillion? Because they want to reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. And they made those massive tax breaks permanent.
The last shutdown, the 43-day
While at the same time can't even be bothered
and the shutdown ended
to extend
getting those extensions.
Affordable Care Act tax credits for working class Americans who are about to experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. The American people know that Democrats are fighting for them, for working class America, for middle class America, and for everyday Americans, and that Republicans continue to show up for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected.
Of the looming crisis because of the pending expiration of the
Yep.
Affordable Care Act tax
We've got a
credit.
new congresswoman from Arizona. Speaker Johnson keeps saying that his antics and stunts, whatever you're doing,
in articulating
the new lawsuit
narrative
is
during
for,
the Trump Republican
for national publicity. Would you care to comment on
that in part resulted
Well,
in
let me yield to Catherine and
17
Pete as well.
House
I had the opportunity yesterday to stand with
every
Jamie Raskin and Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva after Democrats tried for the 5th time
3 years
to be recognized so that Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva could be sworn in.
Democrats are governing
4 weeks
the
have
minority
passed
as if we
since
were in the
she was
majority.
elected.
We've had more
And the reason why
successful
Mike Johnson
discharge
and House
petitions
Republicans refused to
Democrats
swear
in
in
this Congress
Representative-elect Adelita
over the
Grijalva
last few
is
months
because they want to
that have
continue
occurred
to
in the last
hide
few decades
the Epstein files
combined.
from the American people. That's crystal
So,
clear
The one
at this
thing we
point in
can
time.
guarantee
There is no other reason that this
American
has
people
dragged on
is that we're in
this long
fight on their
when
behalf
extreme MAGA Republicans who were elected out of the state of Florida underperformed in those elections, by the way, dramatically, as Republicans have been doing all across the country, and as we'll see in New Jersey, in Virginia, and in California in under 2 weeks.
Notwithstanding,
Those two extreme MAGA Republicans, these are individuals who aren't even qualified to serve in the People's House. Let's be clear about that.
very real.
And yet, Mike Johnson
It is a clear
decides to
present
swear them
danger
in
to
less
the
than
economic well-being
24 hours
of working class Americans,
after these extremists are elected to the House of Representatives,
everyday
and now
Americans.
4 weeks have passed.
Donald Trump and Republicans
The
have
reason
failed the country
why they continue
when it
to
comes to the
unlawfully
economy.
block
Republicans promised
the swearing
they were
in
gonna
of
lower the
Adelita
high cost of
Grijalva
living
is because
on
they are
day one
actively
of Donald
hiding
Trump's presidency.
the
But
Epstein
costs
files
haven't
from the
gone
American
down
people,
in
and
the
they're
United States
protecting
of
someone clearly,
Costs have gone up.
the wealthy, the
under
well-off,
failed
the privileged,
Republican
and the well-connected.
policies.
Catherine?
Housing costs are out of control.
Yeah,
Grocery costs
I just
are
think
out of
this
control.
is so
Healthcare
shameful that
costs are out
someone
of
who
control.
won with 70% of the
Utility
vote. By the way, the
are out of
vote
control.
total that she had
And
was a larger
childcare costs
percentage than the two Republicans
Are out of control.
that
The
they swore
affordability
in.
crisis in the United
So
States of
under
America
his
is
own
very real.
standard, right, we need to swear her in. She has a certificate of election from the Secretary of State in Arizona. It is absolutely shameful that Speaker Johnson hasn't given her the oath of office. Members were sworn in during the government shutdown 6 years ago. Members, new class of members took their oath of office. None of these excuses actually mean anything, is what Leader Jeffries just said. These are just talking points because he doesn't want to swear her in to be the 218th signature on these Epstein files. That's just what it is. But for her, and I know Adelita Grijalva is more concerned about her constituents than she is about her. This is about 800,000 people in the state of Arizona who don't have a voice here on Capitol Hill until she takes office. So for those people who are reaching out, who need help and support, who are navigating federal agencies, veterans who need VA appointments, those individuals don't get the help and support because they don't have a member of Congress. They can go to their senators, and we encourage them to do that. But it's absolutely shameful that Speaker Johnson won't swear Adelita Grijalva in, and it really does beg the question of, what are you hiding? Why not? How easy can this be? Pro forma session, swear a member in. It's not that hard. Speaker Johnson needs to do the right thing.
Before a DHS funding bill moves
thank you, Leader Jeffries. Wondering if you could comment, the Pentagon is implementing this new policy with regards to communication with members of Congress, apparently centralizing that through a specific office. How, from your perspective in Congress, would that affect the day-to-day operations here and your visibility as a co-equal branch of government into what's going on there?
Well, this is just another example. And by the way, Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history, and an example of the type of extremists that have been rubber stamped by Republicans in the Senate. They know these people were unqualified. They put them into office. Donald Trump and now they're continuing to undermine American values every single day of the week, as opposed to actually doing their job. The American people. And from our perspective as Democrats, listen, we're not going to bend, we're not going to break, we're not going to bow down to any wannabe king as it relates to upholding our oath of office and standing up on behalf of the American people. Republicans were confused as we began to deal with the spending bill issues that we're confronting right now on behalf of the American people. They're very confused because all along Donald Trump knows that House and Senate Republicans, they function like a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump cartel. That's how they act. Like Renee Nicole Good. They just rubber stamp Donald Trump's extreme policies and they move on. Don't say anything about it. Boss says jump, they just say how high. That's how Republicans have behaving all year. Our thing is that, no, we are a separate and co-equal branch of government. No mass. We don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for J.D. Vance. We don't work for their MAGA billionaire donors. We work for the American people. And that's why we're standing up for the health care of everyday Americans. And that's why Democrats are in this fight until we win this fight. Thank you all. Houses of worship and polling sites. An independent investigation to ensure that when ICE officials break the law, state and local officials investigate them and prosecute anyone who has committed a crime in the United States of America. House and Senate Democrats have clearly transmitted to the American people and clearly transmitted to the White House and our colleagues in the House and the Senate the types of dramatic changes of the Trump Republican shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security. And Democrats continue to make clear that we will sit down with our Republican colleagues anytime, any place, here at the Capitol or back at the White House in order to reopen the government enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, and address the health care crisis that Republicans have caused that is devastating people all across the country, in working class America, rural America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities throughout America, particularly at this point, given the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. That will cause premiums, copays, and deductibles to increase by tens of millions of people by thousands of dollars per year. At the same time, Republicans are now threatening to weaponize hunger against the American people and withhold funding for nutritional assistance for children and seniors and veterans and women. This is on top of the fact that in the one big ugly bill that Republicans passed in July, in addition to a nearly $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, Republicans enacted the largest cut to SNAP in American history, $186 billion cut. They ripped food from the mouths of children, seniors, veterans, women, and families in order to provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors. It's completely and totally unacceptable. And on top of that, now they're threatening to withhold funding that the Trump administration has
there's enough corruption taking place
in a contingency fund
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now
in ways that will deprive everyday, hard-working American taxpayers
running the largest
of the nutritional assistance they need to put food on the table.
Enriching
It's
themselves,
now my honor to yield to the top Democrat
on
on the Appropriations Committee, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro.
addressing the affordability crisis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader, for convening this press event today and on this particular issue, which is really so critical. And I want to say a thank you to my colleague, Angie Craig, and as the ranking member on agriculture. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your leadership on this very, very critical issue that we're talking about today. I want to start by making one thing abundantly clear.
For tens of millions
what
of Americans
President
who are
Trump
right now
is doing
dramatically increased health care
on the
premiums.
hunger
In
issue
some cases,
and on the
seeing
nutrition
their
issue
premiums increase
is
by $1,000
immoral.
or $2,000 per month. That's
I
unacceptable.
am the ranking member on the
Here in the
Appropriations
wealthiest country in
Committee,
the history of
and
the world.
I
And
promise
Senate
you
Republicans have done nothing about
that
it.
there is funding available
After House
to
Democrats
provide
partnering with
SNAP
17
benefits
House
beyond
Republicans sent over
November 1st. There
a
is,
month ago,
at the very least,
straightforward
over
extension of the Affordable Care
$5 billion in contingency funds that Congress set aside. Congress, Democrats and Republicans, set aside explicitly to pay out SNAP benefits in the event of some unforeseen circumstances, like President Trump's shutdown. They are, in fact, by doing this, in violation of the Empowerment Control Act of 1974. The contingency funding that we set aside for SNAP is not optional spending. It is required by the law. We appropriated that money for this purpose. The White House must spend it, and what they are doing right now, blocking these funds from going out, is illegal. As a matter of fact, on October 1st, they took $750 million from this fund to deal with paying benefits in Puerto Rico and providing administrative costs to other states. So they acknowledge that this fund can be used. in order to deal with SNAP benefits. There's nothing stopping the Trump administration from making sure that every single one of the 42 million Americans, 16 million children, 8 million seniors, 4 million people with disabilities, 1.2 million veterans receive nutrition assistance in November. And we are at a cost of living crisis with skyrocketing food costs. And President Trump is doing right now is using the fear that so many working people have about where their next meal is coming from as a political bargaining chip. Does anyone actually believe for 1 second that if President Trump really wanted to cover the SNAP benefits, they would not be able to find the money? When he wanted to bail out his buddy in Argentina, they found $40 billion. When he wanted to build a new ballroom to host his billionaire donors, they found $350 million. They found the money. When he wanted to make sure his Homeland Security Secretary could fly in style on 2 new luxury private jets, they found the money, $172 million. But now, when it comes to making sure hungry families can put food on the table, all of a sudden, they can't find the money. And what it costs us every month is $8 billion. And I saw the Secretary, Rollins, this afternoon saying it's at 9.2. I'm trying to find out where she got that number. It's $8 billion to cover SNAP dollars. Is that right, Angie? Right. Angie knows these numbers by heart. She's now talking about 9.2. False. And that there is no, they have, with the snap of a finger, that money can be released and get to people who need it. So if there's between $5 and $6 billion, we may be $2 billion short, but that's enough to get us into November until what we're doing, and then we can look to deal with the rest of it. The Trump administration is more than happy to cut backroom deals. They want to dole favors out to the highest bidders. It's a shame that 16 million children who rely on SNAP benefits did not shell out a hefty donation to the president's inaugural fund. But they're only kids, after all. House Republicans are still on vacation. We have not voted on any legislation in over a month. But if they were here, I doubt that they would object to the president's decision, not just because they are too cowardly to stand up to him under any circumstances, but because decimating food stamps, food stamps is what they have wanted all along. Their big, beautiful bill, as the leader has pointed out, and his signature piece of legislation slashes SNAP funding by $189 billion. That will strip 22 million Americans of some or all of their nutrition assistance over 10 years. Let me just conclude by saying to you that
since January of 2025 haven't lost a
does anybody believe there is a shortage of food in the United States of America? Anyone who believes that? No. We have an abundance of food here in this country. And the president is required by law to use the remaining money in the contingency fund that Congress appropriated. It's not up for debate. He has the broad authority to transfer funds beyond that to cover the program. If he does not do so, it is because he chooses to not do it. It may be because they don't care about feeding hungry families. I don't deal with food insecurity as a phrase. This is about hungry people. People going hungry in the United States when we have an abundance of food in this country. This is not a game. It's people's lives. We're the wealthiest nation in the world, as I said, with the abundance of food. And no one, not an adult, not a child, not a senior, not a veteran, should go hungry in the United States. Under President Trump and Republicans' failed leadership, it is just one crisis after another. Open enrollment for health insurance begins in 4 days. They have not addressed the health care crisis they created. President Trump and the Republicans should return to Washington. End the shutdown. Vacation is over. We are here, we are working, and we are ready whenever they decide to join us. Let me turn it over now to the really indefatigable and will be chair of the Appropriations, of the Authorization Committee, Angie Craig from Minnesota.
By 13 points.
Well, thank you so much, Rosa, and thank you, Leader Jeffries. We are here today because President Trump and Secretary Brooke Rollins have chosen to take food away from 42 million Americans. Instead of coming to the table and working with Democrats to find a way to protect Americans from losing their health care, their health insurance premiums increasing dramatically, or both, the Trump administration has chosen to use the security of food in our country as a bargaining chip in a government shutdown. The president can't even be bothered to be in the country while Americans line up at food shelves across our nation. 440,000 Minnesotans alone need access to the SNAP program. The Trump administration has the appropriated funds and legal authority to fully fund SNAP in November, plain and simple. They are refusing to follow the law, and they are cutting food assistance when there are ample funds available, over $5 billion in the SNAP contingency fund, and they have the legal statutory transfer authority to fund the rest. If the president wanted to help feed hungry Americans, he would. He's shown us that. He does whatever the hell he wants to, whether it's legal or not. This is not only legal, but it is the right thing to do. But his actions have shown a callous disregard for America's seniors, veterans, and families with children. Earlier this year, he canceled food orders to food banks, stopping $500 million worth of food from reaching people in need. Food that our family farmers across this nation have grown. Food that they counted on being able to sell to the nation's food banks. The Republicans' one and only priority this Congress has been the big ugly bill, which not only cut health care by $1 trillion, but also cut SNAP by $186 billion. A frontal assault on our most effective basic need food assistance program to help vulnerable members of our community who rely on it to keep food on the table. Now the administration is taking food away from 16 million children, 8 million seniors, and 1.2 million veterans. Their hands are not tied. Their hands are not tied. The law is clear.
It's outrageous.
The law is as clear as this administration's cruelty is as clear. The law is as unambiguous as congressional Republicans' desire to let the ACA tax credits expire. It is unconscionable. It is egregious, and it is illegal. I'm calling on the president to do the right thing and the moral thing, which coincidentally offers him a chance to do something he rarely does, which is follow the law. I'm calling on my Republican colleagues to speak up to your friends in this administration and at the USDA and deliver a simple message. They have the money and the authority to fund SNAP. Hungry Americans are not poker chips. Their health and well-being are not to be gambled with. And I so appreciate the attorneys generals from across this nation, including my own Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, for standing up to this administration earlier today. Stop playing politics with America's hungry children, veterans, the disabled, seniors. Get back to the negotiating table. Open up the government and fund SNAP in November. Thank you.
Connecticut joined that suit too, so excited to be with you.
What was your reaction? We're going to do on-topic questions first around the shutdown, SNAP, and healthcare.
It's not yet been called yet, so we're closely monitoring the election results. And then whoever emerges will be prepared to stand by them in the April general election to ensure that a Democrat fills the seat left vacant.
Sure. When we,
by Governor Mike Carter.
when the four of us sat down, Congressman Cole, Senators Murray and Collins and myself, it's really now over a month ago, and we came together and we talked about 2 or 3 things. One of them was that what we needed to do was to have the top lines for the agriculture, interior, and the military construction bill. The second thing, and we agreed that we would do that, so we had a number to work to. The second thing was that we would do a bipartisan continuing resolution.
Democrats being
a
committed
bipartisan
to drive
continuing
down the
resolution.
high cost
And
of
that
living. America
would
is
include
too
two things.
expensive
One
right
of
now.
which
Donald
was
Trump has
to
made
take
the
into consider
affordability
Democratic
crisis worse
priorities,
here in the
because
country,
all of the bills
and
that
then
we had seen
continues to
were
say
just
it's a hoax.
unilaterally partisan.
Well, that we're
And
not
amongst
talking about
those
it anymore.
Democratic
The
priorities
problem is
was the
Donald
issue of
Trump
health
spends
care
all the time watching state
and
TV.
the premium subsidies and
As
the
opposed to actually
Medicaid cuts.
interacting
It's $1 trillion
with
and the
everyday
skyrocketing
Americans
costs that are now upon
who
people
know
at this very, very
that the
moment.
affordability crisis is
And the
very
other
real.
thing that we
So we're
spoke
focused
about,
on the
and there
economy.
was a
We're gonna
consensus
continue to
about this,
focus
that what we
on
needed to
fixing our
do
broken
was
healthcare
in the
system
future,
in
when
an
the
environment
appropriators came to a
where
conclusion,
Republicans enacted their one
that
big
that
ugly
would
bill,
stick.
and
And
the
that we
largest
wouldn't have
cut to
any
Medicaid
unelected
in
bureaucrats
American history,
who were
literally
saying,
ripping
no,
food
money's going here, money's going
as
there,
well from the
everywhere,
mouths of hungry
except for where it
children,
was
seniors,
appropriate.
and veterans,
We had
taking
consensus
healthcare
about that.
away from
Not
more
a
than
few
14
days later,
million people,
on the table,
hospitals,
bang,
nursing
this is
homes,
the
and
Republican
community-based health clinics
continuing
closing
resolution,
across
and
America
therefore
because of
that's what it
Republican
is.
policies
In the meantime, yes,
in that
staff
one big ugly
in
bill.
both the House and the Senate have
And
worked
now they
on
continue
those
to refuse
three
to
bills,
extend the Affordable
and
Care
I
Act
would
tax
just say they have
credits,
made progress on
meaning
the
that
bills.
tens of millions
But the
of
issue now
Americans
is coming to the
are
table
increasingly unable
to
to
be
go see a
able
doctor
to deal with the
when
continuing
they need
resolution
one.
and
And
the
all of this,
issues
of course,
that
was
have
done
been
in that one big ugly bill
central to that,
enact
which is
dramatic
cutting the costs and
tax breaks, big tax breaks,
canceling the cuts and
for their
saving
billionaire
America's
donors,
health
while at
care.
the same
Now, you
time
may want to
giving ICE
ask,
a
what does that have
$75
to
billion
do
slush fund
with the bill? Well,
so they can
the
unleash
continuing
brutality on
resolution
the
is
American
91
people.
pages. 67
So we're
of
gonna
those
continue to point
pages
out
are about health care and so forth. So
the
it is
fact
the
that
appropriate
Republicans have
conversation.
created a healthcare
And given
crisis,
that those
and in part they created that healthcare crisis
notices are going out now,
so
that we
they
need
could
to
give
deal with
ICE
it
a
now.
slush
So
fund,
we are waiting
not
for them to come to the table to
after
reopen the government.
violent
And
felons,
honestly,
but to target
if we can
American
get
citizens,
my three other
in some
colleagues,
cases,
we
kill
will
them,
move on appropriations bills. But they
and
have
also
refused to come to the table since the
violently go
outset
after
of this
law-abiding
debate.
immigrant families. All unacceptable.
Yeah, Donald Trump and
Create a
Republicans have
healthcare
taken a
crisis.
my way or the highway approach
Democrats
from the
are
very
committed
beginning of
to
this
fixing our broken
Congress.
healthcare system.
And we've
Third,
maintained, led by Rosa
we need to
DeLauro,
clean
that
up
we want to
corruption
sit
here
down and
in the
negotiate a
United States of
bipartisan
America.
spending
In the
agreement,
House,
now
in
reopen
the
the
Senate,
government, but at the
at the
same period of
Supreme Court,
time, address the
and
Republican
certainly
health care
with the Trump
crisis,
administration. And in that
which has been
context,
devastating
the American people are
on everyday
correctly
Americans and
demanding
hardworking American taxpayers
transparency
throughout this
and
year,
accountability
including
as it
the
relates
largest
the
cut to
Epstein files.
Medicaid in American
What is
history.
the administration
Hospitals,
hiding?
nursing homes, and
Who are
community-based
they
health
trying to
centers
protect?
closing
These are questions
because of
that,
Republican
of course, led
policies
by Robert
and their one big
Garcia,
ugly bill throughout
Jane Raskin
America,
and Teresa Leger Fernandez,
including in rural parts
House Democrats are
of the country.
going to continue
The American
press
people now
forward
confront the
on
possibility of a $536
consistent
billion
with what the American
cut
people
to
are.
Medicare because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill if Congress doesn't act by the end of this year, and now because Republicans refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans right now are receiving notices as we approach open enrollment on November 1st, indicating to them that their premiums are going to skyrocket
This is a
in ways
effort by Republicans
that will
to
make
distract.
it
The so-called
unaffordable
SAVE Act is
for
not
them
about
to see a
voter
doctor
identification. It is about
when they
voter
need to see one, when their children
And
need
they
to
have
see
zero
one, when their
credibility
family members
on this issue.
need to see one. This is a
Republicans, in the same
health
way that they have
care
zero
crisis
credibility on every other
that
issue,
Republicans have visited on the American
they
people,
continue to be
and it has to
routed
be dealt with
electorally.
decisively. We're now heading into a SNAP crisis.
And states
As
that Donald Trump won
Angie Craig and Rosa DeLauro have so powerfully articulated,
The last
that is a
shutdown, the 46-week
man-made
shutdown, was over the
Republican
ACA
crisis.
extensions, and the shutdown ended
Because Donald
without
Trump has
getting those
decided
extensions. What's
that
your
he
belief
wants
as to how this
to
next
force
shutdown
millions
will
of
end? Do you have
Americans,
urgency
including
that
possibly
people that
16 million
these demands will
children,
happen? The
to
last
experience hunger,
Yes, and the last ones did actually happen.
so they could
in the House
continue
of
their my
Representatives.
way or the highway approach toward
no one was
driving their
talking about
right-wing extreme
healthcare
agenda down the
generally
throats of
and
the
the
American
Affordable Care
people.
Act specifically in
Unacceptable.
September September of 2025 until House Democrats, joined by Senate Democrats, started to talk about it in the context of the looming crisis because of the pending expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credit. Everybody understands that Democrats were successful in articulating a narrative during the Trump Republican 43-day government shutdown that in part resulted in 17 House Republicans joining every single
Well, we've made
House
clear from the very
Democrat
beginning
in
that we want to
passing
enact a
straightforward
bipartisan spending
extension
agreement
on
that meets
our
the needs of
terms,
the American people,
3
that
years
improves their quality of
of the
life,
Affordable Care
that
Act
drives down the high
tax
cost
credit.
of living
Democrats are
here in
governing
this country, where costs
in the
haven't gone
minority as if we were in
down,
the
as Trump
majority.
promised on day one. Costs have gone
We've
up.
had more successful
And we
discharge
set out
petitions
from the very beginning
led by
in
Democrats
September
in this Congress
that we want to reach
over
a
the
spending
last few
agreement that's
months
bipartisan